Good afternoon and welcome, everybody. This would be the Jeff Cameron Show right here on 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV on a Libations Friday, loosey-goosey edition of the program. Busy day, busy days in a good way. This is a fun stretch. This Thursday through Sunday is a fun stretch every year because you have what you had yesterday, which was opening day in baseball. Let me just start with that and tell everybody who came out to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill that I greatly appreciated. It was good to see so many people enjoying the great sport of baseball on opening day. Got to meet some of you, shake hands, talk a little bit about the game. Got to see Bill, the owner of Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. That's always fun to do. And the Vegas Wall did not disappoint. All the games were on. The hot dogs were delicious. You know, when Bill does hot dogs over at the CP, he does it right. They always kick ass. I mean, it's not quite a Fenway Frank, but it's close, man. It's very close, and it's better than most. It's better than most is what I'll tell you. I'm going to give him that. The all-time call ranking there, that's one of the great calls ever. So you got to put that's where he's at right there. Better than most with the hot dogs.
Well, and for $2, I mean, good Lord, that's as good a hot dog as you'll ever have for $2. My voice is still hoarse from yesterday because I was rooting very hard into the ninth inning for the Mets yesterday. We loaded the bags.
An anemic day for the Mets at the plate, yes.
It was. Framber Valdez is really good. That's going to happen. But those dogs are unbelievable, and they ran out at 7:15. They were out at 7:15 last night.
Yeah, I got my last dog in when I was getting ready, right before I left at 6-something, and it was so I had – whatever I had, 3 hot dogs yesterday. Three solid. I didn't need many more than that. I could have kept eating them, though, because they were damn delicious. And Bill even went the extra mile and put them in the tinfoil like you're at the ball game. He was very serious about that because my first hot dog came out. It was not wrapped in the tinfoil, and he told the waitress to go back in there and tell the cooks to get it together. He was mad. He was legitimately mad. It was great. He's like, no, I had them go out and buy tinfoil. I just got done talking to them about this. We're going to do it right.
I didn't realize that was the deal because the first 2 I got were not, and I did 4. I capped it at 4.
There you go.
And they were freaking delightful. They were fantastic.
I wish I was eating one right now. Well, it was kind of funny because at the end of the day, the Braves lost, the Mets lost, the Pirates lost, and really in a lot of ways they were all heartbreaking because, I mean, the Buccos have a 4-1 lead when Skeens goes off. That game should be over. But much like last year, Holderman and Bednar decided, we hate leads. We don't like winning games. Not even against putrid hitting teams like the Marlins can Holderman and Bednar get outs.
Well, you had first and second, nobody out in the ninth, too. You had that, too. Didn't go.
It's just stupid. Just a bunch
that is the Marlins' first walk-off on opening day in their franchise history. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Walk-offs are hard to come by, but specifically on opening day, they got one on the 2 flares with 2 outs off of Holderman. I mean, as mad as I get off of him, I mean, I'm like, well, really? This is what we're doing? Baseball did not waste time being baseball. There's 2 outs and 2 men on for the Marlins. It's a number that a guy's totally fooled on that falls, followed by an excuse me number that falls. So I'm like, okay, we got a tie game because these 2 assholes. Oh, excuse me. Mark the time because these 2 idiots were fooled and somehow rewarded because baseball is baseball. Now that said, Bednar came in and that first ball is hit hard. Now, a real center fielder might make that play, but nonetheless, that ball is hit hard. And the next ball is hit extremely hard as well. So the contact there was not quite the same as it was in the bottom of the 8th. The contact in the 9th was legitimate contact, and that just carries over from last year. But I want to say a public thank you to baseball for starting it off the right way. Like, let's get that out of the way. Let's get the reminder that the game can be incredibly cruel on a very consistent basis. And so therefore you're just going to have to live with it. And I was reminded of it. I did, after I got done running my little errand afterwards, I got home and was able to watch even more baseball. I actually had 2 TVs going last night. And this is hinting at the fact that this is my favorite time of year as we get closer and closer to the Masters, because you have a situation where the games in hockey mean something. The games in the NBA mean something as we come down the stretch. You've got Sweet 16 games. You've got an ongoing golf tournament. You got the Noles getting ready for a 3-game series against Notre Dame, which every year is different, but you're having a 3-game series in the ACC this time of year, no matter what. You got the start of Major League Baseball. You got it all. So I had the Sweet 16 games going. I had the baseball games going. I was flipping back and forth with the hockey. I had a lot going on yesterday evening, and it was just a Thursday in March. Speaking of which, it is the anniversary 33 years ago today. And I remember exactly where I was, and young Tom Lang was exactly that. He was 6, so I don't think you watched it live. Maybe you did. If you did, I don't think you remember it until many years later. But it is still the greatest NCAA tournament game I have ever seen. And it was Christian Laettner hitting the shot against Kentucky 33 years ago on this day in the Elite Eight. And I was thinking about the pain of losing certain games. And for me, in my lifetime, it's the wide rights. The wide rights have always been the bane of my sporting life. Like those moments, to have been in attendance, to have seen the wide rights, I mean, chip shots that go wide right that cost you the game against your hated rival in the University of Miami. I'll be on my deathbed thinking about how that happened, thinking about those games and what it meant. I mean, Florida State would have, bare minimum, 2 extra national titles had those kicks not missed. That's just the truth. They were the best team in the country, not named Miami, and they outplayed Miami that day, and they found a way to lose the game. Anyhow, that said, I think about that a lot, those games. I can't imagine there's a fan of Kentucky basketball because much like Florida State, Kentucky's had a lot of success. So those moments in pain where you're like, oh, I cannot believe that happened, luckily have been offset by and large with a lot of wins in championships, in moments in the sun as a fan, if you will. But you tend to remember the painful losses more. And I don't know if there's ever been a more painful loss than the loss Kentucky suffered on that fateful day with Christian Laettner on the pass from Grant Hill with 2 seconds to play in the game, in overtime, hitting the shot to finish what was the most perfectly played basketball game I have ever seen. And both in terms of scope and both teams playing that well, but then also a singular performance has never been better in a game of basketball with the game on the line than the one Christian Laettner had, which was, of course, a perfect day, quite literally. 10 for 10 from the free throw line, 10 for 10 from the field. He was perfect, absolutely perfect. And it culminated with that shot that is known as the shot, and it happened 33 years ago, which makes me feel incredibly old. I was in my parents' house, and the upstairs bedroom because they were being too loud downstairs, Tom. And when the game went to overtime, I said, screw you guys, I'm going upstairs to watch because I want to hear Vern Lundquist's call. I love Vern, and he was in his heyday, and he was with Lynn Elmore, and they were killing it. That's a young Vern, Tom. That's a young Vern.
Wow. Wait a minute. So it's Vern and Len? Because Len was exceptional at the craft. Len was awesome.
My favorite part, this gets lost in the wash. A lot of people don't. So if you are youngins, if you're out there and you're like 37 years old and you were 4 when this happened, Tom Lang. Go back and watch that game on YouTube. Tom, I know you're fond of going back and watching the Masters on YouTube. Go back and watch that game.
Vern Lundquist's first Masters in the early 1980s. I remember this one. Yeah.
Go back and watch the game, Duke versus Kentucky, and listen to the call. Watch the game. It's in the Philadelphia Spectrum, which doesn't even exist anymore, which is also makes it really cool. Not the original Spectrum, doesn't even exist anymore. So the point would be that game is incredible. It was nip and tuck the whole way. And Kentucky is a distinct underdog. And the shot this is where Lynn Elmore comes into play, Tom, to your point. Lynn Elmore isn't fooling around. The shot that gives Kentucky the lead is pure luck. It's an awful shot from a player who's not a good player, and he just throws it up over a 6'11" Leitner. He's got no chance to make that shot over. The only thing he did right was he certainly put it on high, and it goes off the glass and goes in. And they go to break right after the shot, and Lundqvist goes, "Where do you get the courage to take that shot?" And Elmore goes, "Well, it went in." But it's so good. It's a perfect explanation from a former player going, "My man, there's no courage. That shot was ridiculous. It was a stupid shot that happened to go in."
So what you're saying is he wasn't as impressed with that as he was Laux to snare.
Not nearly as impressed.
He was very impressed with Laux to snare.
Well, Laux to snare is all skill. I mean, it is rapidly brought up the floor. It's a dime. It's a no-look dime from Luke right into the shooting motion of Snare, who, of course, drains the shot. There's one where Lynn Elmore is like, "Oh, okay. That's how grown-ups playing basketball."
Oh, man.
But no, he's describing the shot, and Vern Lundqvist just is going on and on about the courage, and then he goes, he's like, "Well, it went in. It went in." He points out several times too, by the way, if I remember in the broadcast right after that, he's like, well, Pelfrey is asking for the ball there. Pelfrey, and that's his way of saying the much better player wants the ball there. And he's open, like the much better player. I think he's trying to say the play was designed for this other guy who's a much better player. But anyhow, it goes in, and then that's how Duke is in the situation that they're in, and it's the long pass, and it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. This is me yelling at my dog. We'll have to squeeze this together, and I'll put them in their crates in a second. Sorry, Tom. But yeah, that's 33 years ago, and I'm upstairs watching that game play out, and I'm thinking to myself, this is the greatest game I've ever seen. You've probably done that in a football game. We've all been in games and been in a situation where you're like, holy moly, this is the greatest. I've never seen a game this good in my life. To this day, it's that game.
One of them happened on opening day years ago. It was 2016 with Villanova, North Carolina. We reference the game all the time, but we stayed at corner pocket that particular day because we saw at the under 16 timeout in the first half that this is going to be a classic. You just understood in that moment. Essentially, this is the basketball equivalent of a heavyweight prize fight, and they're both elevated to play that level. There was no feeling out period. There was no sloppiness as you're just trying to get a set. No. Yep. That game was epic from the word go, and we knew, we can't leave. This game's going to be so awesome. And it was. It delivered.
That's where sports is at its best. You know, you talking about it just now, and just like maybe some older guys that are my age in their 50s, they're remembering the Duke-Kentucky game, and they know where they were. They watched that, and they went, I don't even care about these two teams. There's just two elite programs playing at the highest level, trading heavyweight blows. And that's you and me watching Villanova, North Carolina as well. Like right off the bat, we were like, this is not.
I got one for you. 2012 Georgia Alabama SEC championship game.
Yeah.
That game was not for the faint of heart. It was about we're going to score on the ground. Both teams, Mark Richt versus Nick Saban. That game was epic. There are a lot of Alabama national championship games and big games that were boring as sin. Many of them against LSU, but it was the race to 10 or the race to 13. That Georgia Alabama game is one of the best games I've ever seen in my life.
Well, yeah, and the irony of the guy making the catch when he should have dropped it. If he had been armed,
otherwise Georgia's going to win, and then whoever gets there wins the national championship that year. Yeah.
Yeah, the irony is that if the kid had run the Burt Reed play, That
was Virginia homecoming. We still didn't win that ball game though. We had about 9 chances, but we missed the kick twice.
Yes, we did. But if only Georgia had known about that play design to purposely drop the pass that's coming to you, the clock would not have run out, and they would have been able to perhaps win the football game. But an all-timer. I list on the short list of sporting moments that I'll never forget where I was is this Kentucky Duke game. There's a ton of Florida State games, of course, but the other ones up there in terms of it, like being in shock and thinking this is incredible. Admittedly, there's one in recent memory. and that's the Saints-Vikings. That makes no sense. To this day, that angle, that is the closest I've ever come to thinking that this guy purposely lost the game.
Yeah.
How do you take that angle?
Well, they played a couple of classics the last 15 years because the Bounty Gate game was also an all-timer. I thought when he caught the ball, Diggs, I thought, get out of bounds. There's got to be one more player. So get out of bounds. Y'all can kick it. And nobody was there.
Yeah, he's gone.
It's like, because the camera zooms out. Like, oh, that was the last line of defense. I don't know how that's possible. Okay. All right.
Until I go to my grave, I want to sit down with the guy that took that angle and be like, you're a professional football player. How did you do that? How did that happen? Was there a light issue? What, did you not see where you were? Did you not understand the situation where, like, nobody can get behind you? Like, that can't happen. Make him kick it. Like, there's no way you can let him do that. That's I'll never know. I'm still in shock by that to this day. But what are you going to do? Hey, I won my bet yesterday. I did tell everybody I thought Florida was going to kill Maryland.
We had a guy win a bet at the bar for $100 too.
Yeah, on a home run from Austin Riley.
Well, he had a bonus bet with Hard Rock, $46. I don't know how you land on a $46 bonus bet, but it was an RBI, over a 0.5 RBI, and Riley got it done the hard way. He hit a bomb.
Yeah, hit a bomb, and the Braves lost, so it was a great day. Yeah,
every team at our table lost. The Twins lost, the Braves, the Pirates, and the Mets all lost.
Oh yeah,
we should have put a parlay together. That would have been good odds.
Yeah, only Ira's Baltimore Orioles not only won, but won in resounding fashion. It was over in the second inning. It's 5-0, and they were just steady hitting bombs left and right. I was like, good God. I will say something here really quickly, and because it bothers me, and they're going to have to get a handle on two things. Two things they got to get a handle on in Major League Baseball. The first one is, can we get back to opening day being opening day again and having games at noon and doing the right thing and all that other stuff? And can we also start a game before 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock? Why are we not allowed to have baseball games in the middle of the afternoon?
Also, start on time. If your first pitch is 4:10, the Mets started, I think, at like 4:22. What the hell is this? Let's go. I want to watch us play.
What was going on in St. Louis with all the trucks? They had 47 trucks wheeling out there over and over and over again. Well, what were they honoring?
They had a delayed start because of rain, so that was their problem. They were an hour and a half late because of rain.
Well, that's fine, but the trucks were scheduled either way. What's going on with the trucks? We had 55 trucks rolling out there. What were they doing? Honoring every Cardinals player that ever lived?
So many trucks. You think Tedeschi's out there with them? Oh, he had to mute because of the dog. The dog loved it. The dog.
We're gonna remedy this situation. But the Tedeschi truck stroke was well done, sir. Well done. Chef Cameron, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. You know, I don't know to what extent we need to be concerned, but in regards to Florida State football, it's growing. My concern, a little bit now. If you listen to Mike, he's described the injuries, and there are a bunch of them beginning to mount. Go read Ira's column if you haven't yet so far over at warchant.com, where he's documenting the injuries that we've had. But, when I marry those injuries with the fact that you're already without Shaheem, you're without several players. Well, I shouldn't say several. We came into camp with a few important pieces missing from the spring, just nursing injuries and things that we think they're going to be okay in the fall. But, those guys being out while they install new systems, less than ideal. And then now we learn, yesterday it was Joseph. Now you learn that Jacob Rizzi and Daniel Lyons and the Lavalley kid, the Caleb Lavalley, the linebacker that came over from North Carolina, who, by the way, I kind of deem as critically important because I have a feeling he's a real dude, a real player at linebacker from what I've seen. I'd like him to be in the mix, seriously in the mix for all that we're going to do defensively. Now he goes down with injury. Mike, The expression on Mike's face while he's talking about these injuries yesterday in the post-practice report concerns me because it doesn't match his words. I'm not trying to read into this more than I should. I'm not trying to overstate the level of concern that I have. I'm only giving you my observation. And my observation is when he's talking about the guys that they're going to miss time, Daniel Lyons going down, Caleb going down. We've already had Edwin Joseph go down. There are rumors that we had a significant receiver go down. We've had a lot of guys have a hard time staying healthy out here. When you hear that, you think, okay, well, as long as they're fine in the fall. But when he says it, he looks concerned. He looks a little concerned. That's all I'll say. I mean, did you pick up on that? Because
yes,
a guy who looks like he's a little worried.
As somebody who's lost an animal in the last year, he looks like he lost an animal. I see myself in Mike Norvell. He looks like his favorite pet died. Yes. And I think, judging by the way he delivered the news of the 3 injuries, the Daniel Lyons one seems to be the long-term one. That one seems to be the long-term one because he specifically cut off the whole they'll be fine. They have a great opportunity to work in the summer, like whatever. Then he threw Daniel Lyons in at the end of that, after that statement. And that's the one that worries me because consider that Jason Jenkins is out for a long time. And I get that Jenkins isn't necessarily an interior guy, but we don't have a ton of dudes up front. Like you're going to need the Deontay McCrays of the world to step up and Diggs to step up and some of these other guys along with Darrell and James Williams. But you don't have a ton. And if you lost Daniel Lyons, that would be tough because he already said that Wynn is dealing with stuff, and that's a true freshman. And if Wynn isn't able to practice with consistency, this is a critical time for his development to be ready for the fall. So, yeah, if I had to guess the truth of it, my guess would be that he's worried about defensive line depth, and we'll see. You know what? What we'll know is the next 3-4 weeks. How aggressively they attack the portal at any one of these positions will tell you how serious the health concerns are for the things he's reporting right now.
They're going to have to go out and get some defensive players. What worries me is that, Tom, this isn't how you go about building defensive line depth. This isn't it. The portal's not going to help you here in a way that is significant. The portal depth that you can add that you're going to overpay for post-spring, I mean way overpay for, is that of depth normally. It's just a backup. It's somebody who's it's a third guy in the rotation. There are no elite defensive tackles available in the portal right now. Now, maybe that changes. Maybe that changes and you have a shot at it, Tom. But, I mean, I get that they'll rank guys. They have to rank them in some order. There'll be somebody ranked highly in the portal, but that's just of the people in the portal. That's not all defensive tackles, right? So that's just sort of okay, well, relative to what's out here, which is largely average to below average, here's what you're going to overpay for now because you haven't recruited well and you don't have the requisite depth to be a serious player for the college football playoff. So now you're going to overpay for somebody just so you can get by. And that's where they're going to find themselves if these injuries are significant. They may not be. They may not be. Now, we know the Jenkins one is, but I just...
Yeah, no, this looked different than when he was talking about Edwin Joseph the other day. I think you can look at those two without playing Coach Cameron Translates. You just look at the man speaking and giving the update. The tenor in which he delivered the one yesterday, at best, it is fatigue for having to report these things. At worst, and they're all short term, but he's tired of having this problem. At worst, at least one or two of them is long term and going to affect them. Look, there's not a ramp up this season either. So I think part of it is the specter of Alabama as your leadoff game. If you had Texas Commerce, and then the other school where we're playing Kent State, like if that was game 1 and game 2, maybe he doesn't deliver the message as dour as he did, as foreboding as he did. But I think that is part of this whole thing. You're up against it because you went 2-10. You're also up against it because your first opponent will embarrass you if you're not ready, if you're not healthy.
quote unquote, some of the things that have occurred have stayed pretty much outside of your control, just freakish things that have shown up. Now, here we get to the gibberish. What I've liked is even guys that are limited or unavailable is their intent on learning. Okay. He goes on to say, it puts that much more emphasis on the importance of fall camp. Yes. It surely does. That's a nice way of describing there's going to be a lot of important moments in fall camp because upwards of 5 to 6 players you were counting on the defensive side of the ball are out for spring camp.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to read the transcript because the YouTube machine does that these days where you can read the transcript. We could play the clip, but here it is. You know, and it has the in the transcript, which makes me laugh. But Jacob Rizzi and Caleb Lavallee both missed the rest of spring. You know, nothing that's going to affect, the fall. But, unfortunately, they will miss the remainder of spring practice. But hopefully we'll be able to get those guys. They should both have great work in the summer. As we lead up to fall practice. And then, as well as Daniel Lyons. So, just had a few guys with some bumps and bruises. So it's and then Daniel Lyons, because I think he's trying not to lie. I think he's trying not to lie about the circumstances of injuries. Whereas Jimbo would stare you right in the face and say, Jarrett Fortson had his knee scoped. So he's not here. When he was dismissed the night before, there was no scoping.
Been dismissed from the football team.
Right. And he said he had a knee and he was scoped. Okay. At his first media day. That was his first media day in 2010. Mike, I think, is trying to do the right thing. And I believe him when he says that the linebacker that we really like and this other guy that we really like are going to be available and they have opportunities in the summer. But then he says, and, Daniel Lyons too. I was like, oh, no. Because Daniel's
Tom,
a good player.
I'm gonna learn something and take. They say you can learn from everybody, and there's good and bad lessons that can be taken from everybody, and sometimes it's what not to do. Sometimes you learn what not to do or what not to say. But I'm gonna take this opportunity. I want this opportunity, Tom, and I'm gonna take it. Just like these players in the summer will have an opportunity to learn. I'm gonna have an opportunity here to learn from Mike. From here on out, when I get very angry with my children and I take something away from their everyday life, such as their car or something of great significance to them because I am perturbed with the decision that they've made, I'm no longer going to frame it as having taken something away. I'm instead going to say, you'll have the opportunity to walk. You will have an opportunity to walk the places you'd like to go. You have an opportunity to be in your room for hours on end. You have a great opportunity to clean the house and do your own laundry and think about the consequences of your actions. What an opportunity to learn from the mistakes that you've made that have forced me to remove your car from the equation. What an opportunity you have over the course of the next month to spend some quiet time by yourself.
Well, okay. Yes. And that is something that Mike is very good at. Opportunities and learning, I think, is what he said last year or 2 years ago. There's many opportunities in learning. There's one thing in filmmaking that the best directors do. And this goes from director of a feature film to like a commercial, somebody who's producing a commercial.
Yeah.
One thing you have to do in order to nail it is when you review your work, you watch the whole product without any sound. Like you just because you want to see what the visuals are doing to the people, how they're manipulating the people. So I took a screenshot of Mike as he's speaking on this issue. And for the people that are watching on YouTube and Warchant TV, they can see this. This is as he's talking about those players and throwing in Daniel Lyons. So I'm going to put it on the screen now, and you tell me what's going on here. This is the look. That is not doctored. I didn't go find that at a different place. This is the timestamp of him commenting on this particular injury situation. It's 4 minutes and 22 seconds into the practice video from yesterday. That is the look on his face. That is not good, man. That ain't good.
It's not good, Tom. And there are so many moments where we capture these looks these days from him. And
That
it
looks
just,
like a post-game presser, man. That does not look like a post-practice interview. That looks like a post-game presser. And spoiler alert, the game didn't go well.
yeah, this is a problem for me. I'm noticing it all the time. It didn't take you long to find that, Tom. It took you mere seconds because you heard it just as I heard it, and you thought, this looks a little bit like a despondent moment for a man who's up against it. And I have to be, on a serious note, all jokes aside, and it's easy to joke about that, I have to really catch my...
Sorry. I mean,
I'm going to have to seriously catch myself because I see it every day. I see that it's written all over his face all the time. It is always there right now. The joy is gone. That's a song, by the way, but the joy is gone. It is a cumbersome sort of, oh my God, this is happening right before my eyes sort of look, this terror.
I don't think it's been that bad that often. I know what you're saying. I think that's an undercurrent of what's going on. And I do want to qualify it again. At best, and hopefully from our perspective, this is something where he is despondent because he's so tired of not being able to use the spring as a time to better evaluate and develop his guys. And so he's saying in his own mind, okay, like who else am I going to get back in the summer that I can't use for the next 12 practices or 10 practices? That is the at best scenario where he's saying, well, I know I'm getting these guys back, but I mean, Jesus, what evaluations am I supposed to do? There are jobs that are open right now, and I can't know what my team is going to be. I'm going to get all these dudes back, but I sure would love to have them for the next 3.5, 4 weeks. That is the best case scenario. But worst case is that's not him thinking in that term. It's him thinking that, oh God, we have a huge hole in our roster because I didn't expect 3 freaking dudes in a segment group to be injured. And he has had some awful injury luck in his time here. So it could be.
It's football. If you recruit well and you have some depth, it happens. But yeah, he's up against it. You can certainly see that. He's up against it. And then you can't afford when you're thin, when you have maybe a nice 22, not a great 22, but a nice 22. When you got a nice 22, you're like, all right, well, with that 22, I can win 7-8 games. Okay, well, let's hope they stay healthy. And then they start dropping like flies. You're like, oh, okay, we've got a nice 16. Gonna have to find 6 guys. I don't know that they're on the roster currently. Okay, all right.
You're telling me that I have to draw blood from a stone again? Are you really? We're not even into the month of April.
Damn it, man, is what he's.
Got to be kidding me. Yeah,
I'm telling you, there's just a giant "damn it, man" written across his face. Every time I see him now, it's just a "damn it, man." This is it's the moment. It's the moment of truth in Tropic Thunder when he snatches the map out of his hand.
Dude, that's me yesterday when little Louis Acuna tries to turn that double play and he chips the bricks with the reel. He's an excellent fielder. I don't know what the hell happened, but he chipped the bricks.
Oh, he threw that into next week.
And I'm looking at him like Mike is looking at that dais like, what in the hell?
Well, the unearned run that Skeens gave up yesterday is Kiner Folefa. He's only on the team for his defense. Charges in on a double play ball and just whee! I'm like, well, what are we doing out here, my man? This is why we moved Cruz to center field, was because he couldn't play short. So we went and got you because you can play short. And on opening day, we're going to be out here. I could have kept Cruz at short and had a real center fielder. Damn it, man. Jeff Cameron, Show 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. So on the heels of what we just talked about, I mean, I'm very aware. I'm very, very aware. And it's Libations Friday. It's a loosey-goosey day. But this isn't a loosey-goosey subject, and I think intermittently throughout the summer this is going to happen. I don't want you to think it's going to be an everyday thing, but they are in spring football right now, and so football is omnipresent. And we are in a dire set of circumstances here. You got to get this thing going in the right direction. And so we're watching very closely, everything, the day-to-day operation, the best we can. Now, it makes it even harder, admittedly, when you're not out there, but I'm going to have to go with Coach's word, and I'm going to have to assess what he says, but also how he says it. I mean, we all do this. Now, you do this at your workplace. We all do this. What did your boss say? What did your coworker say? What did whatever position they're in say? And how did they say it? What did they really mean? Do you see signs of strength? Do you see signs of weakness? Do you see signs of uncertainty? I think it's one thing to feel like somebody might be in limbo, and it's a whole nother to think that somebody's compromised and in trouble or overwhelmed. And so we're all watching very, very closely. And why do I bring that up? Because I don't want you to think there's a piling on effect for the sake of it. Am I mad about 2-10? Sure, still am. Can't believe it happened. Frankly, I'm in shock every time I talk about it, that we have to talk about a 2-10 season. But it's really not, it's not the kind of frustration that leads to pot shots. It's not the kind of frustration that means that Mike Norvell on a random Wednesday in mid-April is going to catch a stray from me, although he might. It's that, it's basically that.
It's not that energy. Yes, I agree. There are times where, I think in our relationship, when we do stuff back and forth, there are times where I'm like, man, I don't know, you might be reading too much into this. This one actually affects me more than it affects you, because that press conference, at least in that moment, he might be thinking, I am deeply inconvenienced for spring camp by these injuries. But his tone and tenor in that moment of that press conference is nothing short of the same, identical to a post-loss in the season press conference. And I'm usually not the guy who reads too much into crap. Like that, I'm like, whoa, what happened to you today that your presence is that of somebody who in the spring is acting as though he just lost to Memphis to go 0-3? Because that's what it felt like.
I think I'm really good at body language reads. I have been my whole career. I think I do a very good job, frankly, in looking at somebody and kind of reading what they're saying. I did it with Jimbo and I nailed it. I've done it with listeners. I've done it with you name it. I get a sense pretty quickly what somebody might be.
Oh, hell, you got Tomkowitz before Tomkowitz dropped the bomb.
Yeah.
For the question.
Millisecond into it. As soon as the freaking camera panned, I went, oh, I know what's coming here.
Tomkowitz was 2 syllables into his question. The camera for the coach's call-in show, which, I mean, my God, cuts to him. We're at Corner Pocket, and we're watching at the side bar, Mr. Earl's Bar.
Yep.
It's got another name. But we're watching at that bar, and you immediately grab my shoulder, and you go, and I go, I thought you were seizing up. I thought you were having a physical malady. I was like, are you okay? And you go, no. And I'm like, okay, what? And then you point to the screen.
I knew it.
And Tomkowitz was still 5 seconds away from saying, where's the loyalty, Jimbo?
Yeah, I knew it was coming. I can see it, a look on people's faces. I know when something bad's coming like that. And
that was a special moment. I was gobsmacked. I'm like, how the hell did you know that?
I do. It's like fumbles, Tom. I'm all over him. I can tell you in a millisecond he's fumbled.
That's me in goals in hockey. Right. I will let you know if a goal was scored. I'm the quickest Jesse in the world with a goal.
And I can attest to that. Just like you're attesting to my ability to foresee an awkward moment between people, I can also do it with fumbles, and you do it with goals in hockey better than anybody in the world. I mean, that puck is leaving the stick. He's like, he scored.
Yeah, no, or if we're celebrating, I'm 3 steps away with my hand in the sky.
You're
like, where did he go? Oh, well,
I'm like, how the hell? Yeah, no, you got it. You got it. Well, I'm a fumble sleuth and an awkward exchange sleuth. I got him. I know when it's happening. I'm like, I don't like the way this is starting. I've been this way my whole life. With girls, I can do it. Like if I'm in an argument with my wife or girlfriend in the past, it would be like one word. She's like, hey, before she says, can we talk? When she goes, hey, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here it comes. Here comes the problem. I know it's coming. It's happening. The way you said hey was not a good hey. This is we're going to have a serious talk hey.
Well, I lose my patience immediately in that moment. Immediately. Because the way you say hey, I get it, it's out of love. You're trying to indirectly bribe a point.
Yes.
My thing is, you just said hey. What? What is what is the crux of the problem? Let's just
don't. Right. Yes. And I'm not a mealy mouth. I don't have time for that. I hate it. Language matters. Let's get to it. Words matter. Intent. Let's go. It's the classic. Are you hungry? Oh, that's not what you want to know. You're hungry. Don't tell me that. Don't ask me if you're hungry. Just turn to me and say I'm hungry. That's it. We don't have to waste the time.
Do you feel like getting dinner? Okay, you do, and you have a restaurant in mind.
Right. So just tell me where you want us to go.
Right. Do you feel like getting dinner is where do you want to eat is my retort. Where do you want to eat? Because you're going to ask me, and I'm going to suggest a place, and you're going to say, no, I'm not really.
Because you've already got a place in mind.
Yeah. Where do you want to go? And we can talk, and I might say no, and you're welcome to order from there, and I'll go eat and pick it up. I'm not eating that. But this is 4 minutes of my life that I'm not going to get back unless you just say, I want La Fiesta. Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, La Fiesta is right. Damn it, man. Yeah, well, and it's true. It's like I do this with my kids. Kids because they're always trying to manipulate parents. Kids manipulate parents. It's what we do as kids. It's our life. That's how it works. It's practice for the real world. It's what happens. But I'm hip to it because I was good at it. And so I know it's coming. And so Clark gets one sentence in. I'm like, ask me what you want to ask me. Mm-hmm. It makes my wife laugh, and it makes Bryce laugh now because he's been through it a bunch, so he knows better. But Clark is still figuring this out. Yeah. He literally will start to say something. I go, would you just ask me what you want to ask me? I'll tell you right now, one way or the other. Let's go. And then he's like, well, how do you? I'm like, I can just tell.
Right. Yeah. Mom said it doesn't matter to me where we eat for dinner tonight. And I know that you've been saying that you really want to go to El Jalisco because you haven't been there in a long time. So how about we do something for you? No, you want whatever the hell was on the menu. Let's just go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Just say it.
Just say, hey, can we go to? I want to go to. Don't try to present this as a win for me.
Yeah. Just walk through the door and say, I'd like to go to Ted's Montana Grill tonight.
Right.
Okay. Now, you may not like my answer, but at least I appreciate the directness with which it was asked.
Hey, Dad, remember how you saying you want to go to Ted's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, I'm getting back to the point here. With our observations about Mike, and maybe it seems a little too granular, like we're really getting in here, but it's an important campaign. And yesterday, a nice gentleman came up to Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. He lives in Jupiter. He's a Florida State graduate. He's got his master's from Florida State. Really nice guy. And Tommy walked up and said, my ass is in the jackpot now. He's a baseball guy. He was there. He was in town. He was in town for something here at Florida State. And he just came up to say hello.
Steer clear of the orchids in Jupiter, my man. That's all I'm telling you. But
he brought it up.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he brought it up intentionally. He's like, have you ever met anybody that's been orchids of whatever it was?
Orchids of Asia for Robert Kraft. Yes.
Yeah. And I said, no, but I know many people from New England who have. So we were laughing about that, and we had a good conversation. And he asked the question that a lot of people ask, and that is, are we going to be okay? What do you think about Norvell? Is this going to work out? Because that's where people have cut to now. We're done with the, well, maybe then. What last year did was speed up the timeline. And so people just now are getting to the point, which I like.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They are just straight up asking, hey, man.
Yes. This is where a college fan base has turned professional in this moment. It is your own life, your own business, cutthroat level. We talked to a mover and shaker the other day, one of our favorites in town, and he said, all of my friends are, hey,
done. They're done.
They're done. It's put up or shut up. They're done.
Well,
so, yeah.
They know what we know, which is what I said last year. And, I understand there's nuance in all this, but 2-10 would have gotten you fired in any other walk. I mean, there's just he would not be here if it had not been for the extension in the Rays. He just wouldn't.
And look, we gave him leeway. Some fans of the show say too much leeway. The COVID recruiting problem, like we have been very understanding about that particular issue. This is of your own making, though. This is one where, and people have no time for it. They're like, look, okay, here's the deal, bro. You better crush it. And Gus better be one hell of an offensive play caller. And if he is, great. And if you do, awesome. But we ain't waiting around and mealy-mouthing this stuff.
No,
this is it.
No. And so that was the question that was asked, and I think that's where we're at. We're at the level now of getting rid of the small talk. It's all like very direct sort of, what do you think? Is this guy a dead man walking? What's going on here? And I'll bring it up next hour, but it was a varied response, but one thing I did say is, and I would challenge all of you to do this thing. I'll tell you what it is next. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Hour number 2 on Libations Friday. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio, and Warchant TV. Hope you're well out there. Florida State on the road in that dump of a town, taking on Notre Dame. And by the way, Notre Dame's not very good.
No, but their RPI is strong because their strength of schedule is crazy. They play Clemson and Wake, and I think Georgia Tech already in ACC play, and all of those schools have excellent RPIs. So they're, I think, number 12. I'll look it up, but they're top 20 in RPI. Excellent opportunity for Florida State this weekend.
Yeah, and I would just say that they have any team that you've played that has had a lot of stiff competition, elite in the league, whatever it might be, when that happens, you may not be impressed by their record. Like, so for example, Florida, I mentioned earlier this week, has obviously struggled coming out the gates in the SEC. They lost to Tennessee all 3 times they played them, and they lost to Georgia. Did they lose last night? I think they were playing Ole Miss.
They might have. Just a footnote, Notre Dame's number 14 in pseudo RPI. Florida State stands at 20. But yes, back to your point. I think you're right. I think you're right about that.
Yeah. So the thing that I would note is that you would look at that Florida team right now that we just beat the other night, and you and I both know they're probably a good team. Their record in the SEC is not going to tell you that. But they will have faced some serious competition. When we get down to the nitty-gritty and they start getting into the meat of that schedule, the best teams are behind them. I mean, meaning they've already played those games. They're not going to be rattled by anybody they face at that point. Like, they've seen the very best. They've seen us, they've seen Tennessee, and they've seen Georgia. I mean, those are 3 of the best teams in the country. I don't know. I look at that as a wounded animal thing, and I always get worried about it. I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to rise up and beat us. I don't, we'll see. I think it's going to be very important that we get the Joey Arnold that we've expected to see. Or Jamie Arnold. Joey Arnold's the old Florida coach. Sorry. Jamie Arnold. I was just talking about Florida. So yeah. And it's going to be important that we continue to see Vellini be what he's been, and he's been awesome. And I need Mendez to bounce back.
Well, and for those who haven't been paying attention, which I understand, if you don't like, appointment view the Link Jarrett midweek press conference, I understand that. Jamie Arnold is the Friday guy. It's back to the normal rotation, the way it was drawn up in preseason. So Jamie is due on the Hill, provided there's good weather in South Bend. That's actually only 2.5 hours away. It's a 4:30 start Eastern time to today's game. And it will be Vellini game 2 and then Mendez game 3. Also, a footnote on Mason Martinez, as I sound like I'm emotional. It's just the pollen, trust me. Mason Martinez had not pitched since the 15th of this month. It was game 2 against Boston College. And Link said it was a normal rest thing. And if I'm being honest, Link said yesterday he could have pitched on Tuesday against Florida. He'll be back this weekend. So that is a nice thing to have as you're trying to figure out in slot guys. Prescott, Martinez have been your top flight. And then you had some encouraging moments on Tuesday that maybe you might have a couple more arms that are starting to peak.
By the way, Florida did lose to Ole Miss last night, 7-5. So they are now 0-7 in SEC play is Florida. Ole Miss is 15th in the country, a very good baseball team. It's a very deep and talented league, unfortunately, just like in basketball and football. They're really good. That's what money will do. And that's why we got to get the hell up out of here as soon as possible. But yes, this is where we're at. This is where we're at.
Well, yeah, somebody also has played a tough schedule. This is where just by playing the games, you get rewarded. And I think Florida State, which depending upon where you look, it's 20 or 19, just by playing this weekend series, they're going to climb up the ranks because their schedule is starting to even out in terms of difficulty. Xavier is still top 3 in the country in RPI. Xavier's record is 12-13, and they're number 3 in the country in RPI.
Again, I'm going to point out to these ranking systems that it's great if you play a lot of very difficult games. You do have to occasionally win one. I am not going to give you credit for getting your ass kicked every time you play somebody good. That's not how this should work. Thanks. It's cool. Duly noted. You've had a very hard schedule. You also have not won a single game against any of those teams. Can we just stop with this nonsense? Again, the way you get rewarded for a difficult schedule is to at least be middling in the games against that elite schedule, where you say, okay, well, they've played 10 great teams and they're 5-5. Admirable. But if you're 0-10, you just suck. You're just not any good. That's all there is to it. You're just not any good. So, I mean, I'm sure Florida fans are going to say, well, probably nobody in the country has had a tougher conference schedule to start the year. And if I was sitting across from that Florida fan, I'd go, that's true. I bet you're probably right. I think that's crazy that you had to start your first 6 SEC games were against Tennessee and Georgia, both of whom are elite this year. Georgia's got the player of the year right now who's dominating. And then you had to go and play Ole Miss, who's a top 15 team. That's really rugged. And you lost every single one of those games. So I don't know, man.
Couple of excellent series going on in the SEC this weekend. Georgia's hosting Auburn. And Auburn's number 11 in the country. And then also, I didn't realize, is Oklahoma, have they been a traditional power? I feel like they've never been good at baseball.
No, they've been good at baseball before. 1 year back in the J.D. Drew era, they were really good in baseball. When in the 90s, they were good in baseball.
Yeah, so they're number 9 in the country, and they're traveling to Alabama, and Alabama's 12th in the nation. So another cool SEC series this weekend.
I've got to be honest with you. Oklahoma, okay, so we know Oklahoma is a dominant softball team, who, by the way, Oklahoma gave up 16 runs the other night. Oklahoma won the game. What?
Oh, no. Is that right?
Wow. Yeah. Look it up. They give up 15 or 16 runs, something like that.
I believe you, but I am going to look it up because that's my least favorite coach in America. And that's saying something because there are a lot of bad coaches in this country that are good, but I can't stand. But that's, oh, man.
Yeah, a lot of times they go hand in hand.
Yeah. Yes, right. Wichita State.
Mm-hmm.
Holy smokes.
But they won the game.
19-16.
Yeah. Yeah. How about that?
Wow.
Well, it pisses me off. They could give up 16 runs and still win the game, but they did.
AKA the Hooverville game. Holy cow. 19-16.
Well, by the way, I would point out that Oklahoma, that's what I was getting back to, ought never be bad in baseball. That's a place that cares about baseball. Mickey Mantle, the whole deal. Like, come on now. You can't be bad in baseball if you're Oklahoma and you're in the SEC. So let's go. You've got facilities, you've got money, and it's a place where every kid in that state grows up playing baseball. You ought to be good. Also, something weird, just an observation. There are teams whose uniforms suggest they should never be bad. Uniform greatness usually directly translates in certain sports to consistency. And I feel like Oklahoma baseball is as good a uniform as you'll find. It's a gorgeous. That blood red, Tom, with that cream. Yeah. That blood red and cream, buddy, that is freaking gorgeous.
Well, I will tell you, and maybe we could draft an all teams, like maybe a fantasy squad of 2 or 3 of programs that look great and are never great.
Rice.
Oh, yeah, Rice. All I know is Rice.
Rice looks beautiful and is not always good.
Yeah, I would go with Arkansas.
Oh, perfect.
Arkansas is regal in everything they do. They are impressive, and they have money and facilities, but they do not succeed.
Well, they're the same uniforms as Oklahoma. The exact same uniform. Well,
which is the same uniform as Alabama.
Right,
yes.
Right. Yeah. And all 3 are beautiful. All 3 are beautiful. I like every one of them. Now, to Arkansas's credit, best logo of the 3.
Easily. Yes.
Easily. The Razorback is badass.
The only one that competes amongst those 3 is when Oklahoma has the old Stagecoach throwback. That's a nasty logo, man.
No, Oklahoma's got some uniforms, by the way. Tom, I'll point out the all whites, the cream on cream with just the garnet, the blood red trim, just but forget about it. That's like, don't sully those uniforms. Don't play the game. Don't play the game. Just let them stand there with the sun beating down on the beauty.
Yeah, you could say that, like when the Bucks changed their uniforms back from the Salvador Dali font that Jameis wore his entire career.
Unfortunately.
You knew that goodness was coming, and we won the Super Bowl again immediately in the uniform change. Sometimes you're not so lucky. Yesterday I was watching, the Mets have a new road uniform. It's the road gray, but they do the 1980s piping now on the collar and on the sleeves, and it looks breathtaking. And I feel like, oh no, because we got the uniforms right, we're going to suck. It's just, it feels like when you get that right sometimes, when we get the Garnet back, I'm going to be worried about a bad season. When we get the true Garnet back at Florida State.
I've got to tell you, if we're going down the road here again, it's a manly road to take, uniform talk. I will tell you that in the history of the franchise, and albeit a brief history, but in the history of the franchise, I don't know if anybody's gotten it so consistently right through a significant number of changes, all of which were good, as the Tampa Bay Rays. Every one of their uniform combos have kicked ass from Jump Street. Every one. The Devil Rays was very of the time, but they got out of it in the right time. And then the greens were awesome. The baby blue with the yellow is awesome. The dark blue is awesome. They're just always awesome.
Yeah, the only thing I don't like from them is when they tried to stray away from being rays as in an animal, an aquatic animal, and they have the bright star with the ray because they're like rays of light. I'm like, okay.
See, here's the thing. Competing things can be true. I agree that they don't need to stray away from the animal, the stingray, but that uniform doesn't suck when they wear the star. It doesn't.
No, it's true. That original uniform was badass, and it actually would fit more now, and that's why they're doing the throwback thing, and they wear the throwback where they kind of blend the eras together, because that purple is striking and gorgeous.
Oh, it's regal.
But I really loved the forest green look. That was the era that Gerald Williams, who is an all-time uniform wearing dude, like Starling Marte.
Yeah.
There are guys that just, whoever's uniform they're wearing, that's the guy you want to model the uniform when you roll out the next thing.
Yes.
Dude, they had the vest with the long sleeves.
Gorgeous.
That was sick.
He's also responsible for one of the great charging of the mounds in which he popped Pedro Martinez in the face.
Right. In the green uniform. In the green uniform.
It is very rare that anybody connects when they charge the hill. My man sized it up in a straight right to the nose. It's like, pow!
Yeah, if I recall, that was in St. Pete.
It was.
Yeah.
And Pedro was forever hitting people with no repercussions. And I love Pedro. Pedro's my guy. Pedro's one of my favorite players of all time. And I love that he was mean. I love that in the documentary, they showed how mean he was when he was asking, what's his face? Who do you want me to hit? And then he tells him, and he's like, no, I'm going to hit Jeter. And then I'm going to hit Alex Rodriguez. And he hit them both and sent him to the hospital. I'm like, that's my man, Pedro.
Well, and at least, kids that just are coming up now wouldn't understand this. And he did go to the National League, and he did have to bat for himself. So there was an opportunity for the reckoning to happen. And
for years, for years and years and years, he hit people with no repercussions, and that was wrong. But I did appreciate the toughness, and I appreciate that he had his teammates back. And he didn't. One thing I really appreciated about Pedro, he wasn't going to apologize. In fact, he'd take it a step further. He'd hit people and look, that he'd give you that condescending look. And not only that, if you challenged him, he'd talk about throwing at your head.
Yeah.
He'd look right at you. And he would tell people that he was saying think. He wasn't saying think. He's saying, I'm going to hit you in the head.
No, the look that he had was Inspector Clouseau. Now, there's a dated reference. I'm sure that Mario understood. But it's that smug little, no, I don't care. 98 on your hands, so be it.
Yes, that's what's going to happen. Yes, and I appreciated that. But I also knew there was going to come a day where there was going to be a reckoning, because Pedro's not big. He's tiny. And many of those men are capable of beating the hell out of him. Gerald Williams being one. And so as soon as he wore it in the back and you saw Jarrett just throw the bat down, I was like, oh, here it comes.
No, they had some dudes on that team. Greg Vaughn was a large individual as well, who I'm sure did not use any performance enhancing anything because he hit 40 something with the Rays.
Yes, he did.
And Jorge Cantu was a scary joker as well.
Cantu was huge. That's right. That's right. No, they did. They had some sizable guys on that team. There was yeah, you're absolutely right. Who was the third baseman that slept in his car? Was homeless for all those years off and on before he made it to the bigs. It was one of the great stories. He barely stayed in the league. I think he later went to the Reds, hit a bunch of home runs. That's all he could do.
I don't know.
Terrible. Yeah.
They had Wade Boggs and Vinny Castilla. That's the best I can do. Yeah. Yeah.
Vinny Cash Stealer is what everybody called him because he was a bum.
Well, that was the hit show because they had McGriff and they got who it's the steroid guy, the whistleblower.
Oh, Jose Canseco.
Canseco, yeah, they had Canseco, Castilla, yeah. That was the hit show Rays.
I forgot about good old.
They had Canseco, yeah.
All right, so I was saying this, and we got sidetracked as we're wont to do on a Libations Friday. And if uniforms come up, Tom and I are dead. Like, if you want to distract us from having a very serious conversation, the way to do it is just to bring up a uniform. We'll be like, oh, did I hear somebody bring up a uniform? I mean, it could be a whisper in the background. Like, if you're trying to avoid a tense moment, something's gone wrong at work or in your household, if you knew us, you just say, I believe so-and-so to have the best uniforms in sport. And we would stop whatever we were doing and be like, well, that is a bold claim. And then
but it combines that and also excellent jingles. There was a guy in Tampa. I think one of our old GMs would have really appreciated this guy. He had the jingles down because their ticket promo was hit show, Devil Rays, baseball. And you're like, oh, man, I want to go there. And then you realize that 10 people are at the game, but you really wanted to go. It was like the UPN 44. The Bucks start here, UPN 44. I'm like, awesome. And it's for preseason football. You're like, that is a killer jingle. But yes, jingles and uniforms, man, suckers for it.
Uniforms for me all day. I can do college football. I can do hockey. I can do Major League Baseball, the NFL, obviously, on and on and on and on. All the uniforms. The only problem the NHL has is too many people have the exact same uniform. I mean,
that was Vinnick. That's the one shortcoming of Vinnick is he made the Maple Leafs uniform. Yes.
But we look great.
Yes.
We do. We look great. We look great. We look just like
We're the one team in America whose primary color was black, and we strayed from it. In the 90s and 2000s, everybody adopted black as one of their colors. You have it with the Pirates. Always had black as part of their scheme.
Yeah.
And the Lightning went away from it. It's very frustrating.
Yeah, but Tom, it does. The Lightning need to be less black because.
Jeff, they're a hockey team. I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think I'm covered. No, what I'm saying about that, the reason is because hockey, to me, it's not a coal miner sport. I mean, we're talking, and also, by the way, in Tampa, it's airy. It's airy in Tampa. It's not dark. It's airy.
If there's lightning, the sky is what color? It ain't bright.
Well, it's nighttime when there's lightning a lot of times for you to be able to see it. But I don't know. They
could have done purple and black. Because that's actually lightning's not blue; it's actually purple.
Right. Well, there are many colors we don't even see, Tom. We could just make the uniforms colors people can't see.
Wouldn't that be cool to have? Because you see these videos of people who are colorblind, and that always gets you. Like they see.
Oh, it gets me every time.
Well, what if we could put on glasses to see outside the visible light spectrum? That would be cool.
Well, somebody get on that invention because it'd be pretty amazing for a lot of reasons. But I would also point out, wouldn't it be funny if they wore white uniforms? It was like white on white ice. And then you're watching the game, and if you put on those glasses that are really bright red.
They could be like Boise, with the blue field and the blue uniforms. We're the camouflage team, and we wear all white. We even wear like a white mask on our face.
I want to get back to this discussion of what I said to somebody yesterday regarding the way to kind of capture this and frame this situation with Mike in Florida State. And I do think it helps to kind of bring it home in a way. And I've ruined it. I've gone 18 minutes without bringing it up. So we're going to carry it over to the next segment is what we're going to do. It's the Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. So what I was saying about what is frustrating and hard to get past when you look at Florida State's situation has to do with the way we view other teams. And I think about this stuff a lot because sports fans by definition almost most of us are we're hypocritical. I mean, the things that we laugh at opposing teams for or universities for or franchises for, when we're beset by that, we rationalize, excuse away, and refuse to see for too long. It happens a lot. But if you were watching the University of Florida go through what Florida State fans have had to go through, if you want, I'll just do it this way. If these were the seasons, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If 6 of your last 8 seasons looked like this, 7-6, 5-7, 6-7, 3-6, 5-7, 10-3, 13-1, 2-10. If that was your stretch of football being played at the University of Florida, and if during that stretch you hired a coach who went 3-6, 5-7, 10-3, 13-1, and 2-10, what would we be saying? We would be saying bit of a clown show, wildly inconsistent, and in real trouble. And if they're not careful, they better figure something out down there. I mean, that's what we'd be saying because we do it now. We do it now with their current coach. And he didn't go 2-10.
No, but yeah, I agree. Them as a program, they've had a similar road the last, 6, 7 seasons. They've had a lot of losing seasons. I mean, you were fond of pointing that out. Napier finally did a heavy lift last year, and we'll see because their schedule difficulty hasn't changed. They just flip home and away opponents from last year, but it's Lagway or bust for them. But they've had in the last 10 years, I'm looking at it, 1, 2, 3. They've had 4 losing seasons the last 10 years.
Yeah,
4.
and we've had 5. Yes.
Yes, we have. Yeah.
But so right, I agree with you. I mean, look, if you want to go back the last 4 seasons for them, it's 6-7, 6-7, 5-7, 8-5. It ain't good. I mean, there's nothing to puff out your chest about. But if I'm Billy Napier and I went 8-5 with that schedule and a freshman quarterback having to come in and start most of the games after injury, and I went 4-4 in the SEC, that's a far cry from Florida State's 2-10 in the ACC. Not to mention that if you're Billy Napier, you did it and you hammered Florida State. So it's.
And and the way you finished the season was, on an absolute upward trend. But the hope is that gives Florida hope, and then they get smacked with reality this year. They're like, never mind. That was cool when we beat Ole Miss and LSU and Florida State back to back to back. That was cool. Never mind. This guy's not the guy.
Well, yeah, but I'm going to tell you right now, if they're anything above 500 this year, they're not firing him. They are not firing him. This is Florida's schedule. Let's have a little fun. W's and L's, and away we go. They've got something called LIU to start the year, whoever the hell that is. Then they have South Florida. That's in Gainesville. They have these are the games. I don't know. Are these the right days? Do we have the right? Yeah, we do. Then they're at Miami. They're hosting Texas, at Texas A&M, host Mississippi State. Got the game over in Jacksonville against Georgia. They're at Kentucky, at Ole Miss, and they host Tennessee, and they host Florida State. That's a brutal schedule. But if you're a Florida fan, you look at it and you go, okay, well, we got to win against Florida State. We'll get a win against Kentucky. We'll get a win against Mississippi State. We'll get a win against South Florida. We'll get a win against LIU. The rest are sort of,
that's fine.
We'll see.
Yep.
So what did that total? 1, 2, 3, 4, I think 5. So they have 5 games they feel very good about winning. They just got to find a way to win 2 of the others. And they probably will, Tom.
Yeah, they probably will. I agree. And at that point, you've survived an incredibly difficult portion of your program's existence. And even with this middling stuff, because that would be, they go 8-4. You're like, what are we really doing here? At least you're recruiting players. Like, you're bringing in dudes.
I don't want to talk about it. I get angrier by the minute. They're out recruiting us. They're in the midst of this sorry to below average run that they're on, and you open the door for them to stay relevant and surpass you after you had a 12-0 regular season. It really is criminal. And this is why I was describing it as I was. I was saying to this gentleman, if this was happening in Gainesville, if they had just gone 2-10 and retained their coach, you'd go, well, this is hilarious. Look at these guys. Okay, by all means, keep them around. Keep them for several more years. That's right. What you'd be saying.
Yeah. And to footnote that, Florida right now, their 2026 class is not impressive, but last year they finished 8th. They recruited a top 10 class, and they were middling. I mean, if you really want to take the long view of it, you look at and you say, why are we – this is like living in that 9-7 purgatory of the NFL and the 16-game schedule. Why the hell are we doing that? Well, you have Lagway, and you closed very strong as a class last year. Yeah, for us, if you're looking at Florida State from the outside, yeah, you're saying, uh-oh, our guy fired all his coordinators. It looks like he's the circle in the drain right now, and we're trying to buck that trend.
What's our recruiting class ranking right now?
It's better than Florida's. They're 43rd, and we are, because they have 3 kids, 13th. We've got 8 kids committed, and
so it's a numbers. What's the average ranking of the players?
I could get to the composite. I haven't.
But
I'd say just eyeballing it. Probably like 10th, somewhere around like 10th. Might be 12th.
Yeah, I'm worried. That's what I am. I'm worried. And I don't like seeing a worried Mike Norvell after practice yesterday. That's what I'm getting at. I mean, we're all a little on edge. And then when I see him on edge again, golly, now there's a difference. I mean, this isn't coming off the field after yet another loss and having to do a press conference, which is not going to go well. It's inexcusable. So you're going to be in a bad spot. I understand that, but this is different. This is about injury.
Yeah,
and he looked to me like he was deep in thought about how are we going to solve this problem? Like, what am I going to have to do in the portal?
So I did pull up the average rating through the On3 industry, which puts all 3 together. 17th right now, an average star rating in terms of classes. So it's 16 in the true rating and 17th in the average rating. So yeah, we're going to need to do a little bit of work. This one really quickly, though, this is a year that strikes me as you got to prove it, and then you might get some yeses. Like last year should have been you parlay your ACC championship, and I really believe they would have finished with a top 8 class if they didn't totally crap the bed. This year, you're going to have to win before kids say yes, because you're coming off a 2-10. So I think it's a little unfair and premature in this moment to judge a class.
Well, I think we agree and disagree. I agree they're going to have to win in order to get some kids, but I don't think it's unfair to judge the class. I mean, he went 2-10. This is why it's affecting recruiting. That's screw you. Your class sucks because you guys sucked last year. Do a better job.
The machine, this is where we agree. On the machine of it, like the 3-year view, this is not good enough. But for this specific 2026 cycle, like I think kids are wanting to see something before they.
And I would too. I mean, even if I was a diehard Nole, I'd be like, I don't know, man. Are you sure you got it going in the right direction? I mean, like that's got to be a tough sell. It really does. I mean, I guess I'm empathetic. Maybe I'm not empathetic. I'm understanding. I know why it's the way it is, but it shouldn't be. So, you're stuck. What are you going to do? I am a little concerned that the newer members of the staff don't seem to be hitting home runs yet in the recruiting world. I'm hoping that gets shaken up a little bit. I think there are going to be some restrictions on the caliber of player you get at some key positions because of the offense you're running. And you have to be willing to accept that if you're going to run Malzahn's offense, it's not going to be perfectly suited for a wide array of players. It's not going to be the way that other offenses are perceived. And so some of it, you're going to take a hit. You may take a hit when it comes to receiver recruiting. You may take a hit when it comes to quarterback recruiting, certainly. You may take a hit, in some areas that way. And that's, I guess, to be expected. But if you're recruiting to it, I need to see excellence in the areas where you should get a bump. Like running back recruiting ought to be really good in this system.
Yes. Well, you're off to a good start, too. If Chroma lives up to the billing and he comes in right away and produces, at that point, you should be, turning kids away, because it's like, here's your immediate path to excellence. Look at the emphasis we place on this particular part of the game. And then also interior offensive line play, I think, should follow at that point.
Agreed. Yeah, you should be able to get some studs at guard. I think you should be able to find a stud center somewhere. I think you ought to be able to find stud tight ends, quite frankly, because of the multiplicity. Like they're going to use them in a lot of different ways, and he has used his tight ends effectively.
Yeah, that's specific to that position. That is a mess in a good way this year. I don't know how the hell they're going to sort it all out. Do you really want to run two tights a lot? Like, is that what you want, Gus? Is that not? Because Randy came here to play, Randy Pittman, and Biscuit didn't come here to sit, and we'll see. I think he's there to block.
I'm not worried about his feelings.
Yeah, but Landon Thomas is a young stud. He's already getting praise out of camp, behind the scenes, and also on the record. And they love Chase Lofton. And Amari Williams is a two-way player, and he didn't suck at tight end either. So it's a good problem to have, but how do you use all those guys? And Gus ain't exactly about rotating guys. So that's an interesting position group.
If I had to guess, the odd man's out is going to be Biscuit.
Unless they're looking for inline and they're looking for a sixth blocker. Yeah.
And there will be times that you utilize them without a doubt. But yeah, the other guys are all pass catchers, and whoever is the most rugged blocker of the group of pass catchers, if that makes sense, is the guy that you want.
Well, yeah, because I think Landon's more of an H-back type, and Gus uses that for sure.
Sure.
Randy's more of an inline pre-snap guy, but still catching the ball. And then Amari's a freak. And Lofton looks like a receiver. Yeah, I wonder how he's going to jive all that stuff together. That would be the thing where, if we got into practice, I would have looked at that very closely just to see what the rotation is, what the formations are. Hopefully, if we do get to that scrimmage, you get to see a little bit of a window into how what his offense is. It's the same damn thing it's been forever, but like the personnel, how does he see about using them?
Makes me think that Amari's going to be a defensive end.
Probably. Well, especially with the issues they're having health-wise in the defensive front, they might need him to be there.
Yeah, kind of makes me feel that way. Jeff Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. Rob Manfred has made the rounds over the last 48 hours on a lot of shows to talk about the state of baseball, and there's a lot going on behind the scenes in baseball right now. Some things that have got to get cleaned up, but also both sides are positioning themselves to make the argument for or against a salary cap league, Tom, also a floor. They're arguing about the floor. They're talking about how to make baseball more competitive, and it's reflected right now in the fact that the Dodgers won the World Series last year, and they're spending more money than any team's ever spent on a payroll, and they have by far and away the best odds to win the World Series. Doesn't mean that they will, but you've got 5 to 7 teams that have zero shot. And you just can't have that number continue to increase. There are a lot of teams that are in the middle of the payroll debate that do win, that have success. The Rays find ways to win every year. They're a very well-run organization. There are several others who are in the middle of the pack who also compete at a high level despite not having the requisite payroll. And so this continues to be a discussion. But one of the things that, again, I was reminded of yesterday, and thankfully the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill did us right. Bill has the ability to put on the local cable instead of the satellite. And so I could catch the Pirates facing the Marlins. But when I get home and I have the MLB package, of which I spend 100 and whatever I spend, $170, whatever that is for the season. Yeah. The Pirates versus the Marlins is blacked out in Tallahassee, Florida. Makes zero sense. They have got to get past this. No other league has this issue. There has been a temporary reprieve for Yankee fans, anyhow, in the Yes Network Comcast carriage dispute, as the sides have struck a short-term extension, agreed to keep negotiating while that extension is in place. The regional sports network, RSN, of MLB's Yankees and the NBA's Nets are going to stay on the air in New York. Area Comcast subscribers have until 11:59 p.m. on March 31st. The 4-day extension arrived hours before distribution contract on the number 2 U.S. cable carrier was due to expire. This extension, by the way, it is the 10th in this ongoing negotiation. The 10th time they've had to do this extension, and it ensures the YES Network will be on the air for Comcast subscribers when it begins its live game coverage of the Yankees today, just as it did yesterday. But can you imagine, like, if that game hadn't been on in New York City? Well, what are we doing?
Now, I mean, that's a big thing up there. I can tell you from living there, they all expect problems, with the inconsistency of the carriage and the YES Network specifically. They all expected, like, oh, God knows. I'll just go to the bar if it happens. It's almost like they plan for, the way you go to certain towns in the country and they plan for tornado season or hurricane season. Like they plan for, I'm going to get screwed. I guess I'm going to walk down the street and watch the game. They'll figure it out and they'll pay for it because I'm not paying for it at home. Yeah, it happens all the time. I heard yesterday, too, from one of our friends in the Midwest, Iowa is the worst state in the country to live in for local blackout restrictions because much like living in Tallahassee for Miami Marlins games, they're blacked out of Royals, Cardinals, Brewers, and Twins. And they can't get them on their local television without paying through the wazoo. If they bought MLB TV, they would be blacked out of those 4 major league franchises, and they're not in the state that those teams play.
How would they not be, by that reasoning, how would they not black out the Cubs and the White Sox?
They might be as well. I forget if those ones were mentioned or not. They might be.
I bet they are, Tom. I mean, if you're going to black out the ones you just mentioned, Chicago, What are we doing? I would think that they would be blacked out too. He
might have listed 6, and I stopped listening at 4. I was like, you got to be kidding me. It's the state of Iowa. You don't have a baseball team. You should if you download and pay I think it's $150 this year. If you get TV, the TV package might be a little extra, like if you get it on proper television. Yeah, that should just be all right. I've paid $100. I would pay this. You don't want them to know. I'd pay $300 for that thing. The value of it is unbelievable versus what it would cost you to go to 2 singular games, parking, concessions, tickets. $150. That's stealing. Charge me $200 and an extra $50 premium, and there are no blackout restrictions. Done. No problem.
Well, they know it's a problem, and they've been working on it, but this shouldn't be so hard. I just don't understand. Like, you do not want this to be the way you are described. I had a mutual friend of ours text me yesterday because he was not able to come out to the CP, and he said, where are you watching this effing game? We can't get it. And I said, well, I'm at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. I can get the game. Luckily, I'll be watching. And he's like, this effing league. And this effing league has been a thing that is uttered by too many people around something as simple as an arrangement to watch games. Blackout rules are ridiculous in 2025. Everybody has an a la carte option.
Yeah, I have. I watch Lightning games on FanDuel Sports Network app because I have somebody's login information for it. If you're listening, thank you. You don't know I'm using it, but I am because it's 20 bones a month, or it's like 15 or 20 bucks a month for FanDuel Sports Network, and YouTube TV doesn't have FanDuel Sports Network, which is, to your point, actually we're giving a great advertisement to the Corner Pocket. If you're a Lightning, Heat, Marlins, Rays fan, and your streaming option or your streaming service doesn't have it, just go to CP. They got it because they could pull it on DirecTV. There are different rules for businesses for that, and they pull it down. But it's very, very annoying.
It's opening day for the Rays, and obviously they're having to endure an unplanned sojourn to George M. Steinbrenner Field, the spring training home of the Yankees, in order to play their regular season games. It was already a difficult deal being forced to shift to a minor league ballpark because of Hurricane Milton. But, they also have a troubled situation down there because of Stu Sternberg and the piece of garbage that he is, walking away from a deal for a planned $1.3 billion stadium that had already been agreed to by the city and the county and the Rays at one point, before he decided to use the hurricane as an excuse to try to move. Let's just be honest about what he's trying to do. The bad news for Stu Sternberg is Tampa Bay, rightfully so, is considered a huge market that Major League Baseball has to be in. And because of that, Rob Manfred took the rather rare stance of a commissioner in which he allowed for other owners, as well as any number of leaked media articles, to suggest Stu Sternberg sell the team. Now, to understand the depths to which that is just not done, you have to realize that there are owners, including the owner of the A's, who bullied his way out of Oakland despite getting several stadium proposals that matched what he wanted and beyond. They didn't even call for him to give up his franchise because they wanted them to go to Las Vegas. But the point would be this. It's so hard to find multi-billionaires that can afford to buy a baseball team. And when you're trying to coax people to invest in your product and own a baseball team, you don't want the next potential buyer to feel like they can get railroaded by other owners. You don't want potential buyers to feel like if the commissioner doesn't like the way you do business, doesn't appreciate the way you run a franchise that you purchased, that you own, that he can just get you blackballed and get you removed from the ownership role that you're in. You don't want to do that. So they'll put up with a lot. Short of being like Marge Schott and embracing Hitler, you're not going to lose your franchise. They're not going to kick you out. It's just not going to happen. And so when you begin to see these articles, there are no coincidences, by the way. So when you see an article, multiple articles, in which it is publicly known that Major League Baseball is asking Stu Sternberg to sell the Rays, that is real high-level hate. That's the commissioner of baseball allowing for an owner to get raked through the coals publicly because he's pissed with the way that he's handled business. And the reason he's pissed about that is because they're not moving. They're not letting anybody move from Tampa Bay. You might be able to go from St. Pete to Tampa or Tampa to St. Pete, but you ain't going anywhere else. You're not going to Orlando, and you're sure as hell not going to Nashville. Why? Because for every new market that baseball expands to, it's $2 billion of profits. So they're not going to eliminate one major market just to go to another market where they plan to expand anyhow. They're going to let two more people jump on board the train, the money trough, and they're going to add to the coffers, not take away and then add, which comes out even. They're telling him, hey, buddy, you ain't moving anywhere. You can try all the games you want. You can try to, like a piece of garbage, use the hurricane to your advantage. That makes you a real scumbag. But anyhow, you can try that all you want. You're not going anywhere. Maybe Tampa. We'll see how this little grand experiment goes. You better be able to sell out a minor league park. But anyhow, the point would be if he was going to let him go, he would have let Stu say all that and maybe even started to mealy mouth about the situation. He didn't do that. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a fascinating experiment. Rays home opener today.
Well, 2 points about that. Number one, Rob has to carry water for the other owners, which means he has permission to get aggressive about it because they're getting pissed. And so, if you're the last guy in the board meeting and you're one of the owners and they all look at you, that's what's happening to Sternberg right now. Secondly, just a refresher course on DMA rankings and how much Tampa has grown as a medium market.
It's top 12, top 13.
It is number 11 in the country. Yeah. For example, let's see, where's Miami? Miami's down on the list relative to Tampa.
Yeah, that's the way they gauge. That's a little messed up. But
they're 18th. So Tampa is a top 12 media market. And the thing, and that includes St. Pete, of course.
Of course it does.
If you can get to Tampa, it's a huge boon because at that point, you can get some runoff of northern Florida, central Florida, that hour, like Brandon, extending all the way to, you can even get Land O'Lakes, Carrollwood, Orlando itself, that whole area, which is massive, is 15th. So if you can put a team in Tampa that's closer to the Selman and closer to I-4, you're at least tapping into some little southwestern part of the Orlando DMV.
This is a longer conversation. I push back on this, not because I'm a St. Pete guy, but because the traffic is already so awful on the I-4 interstate. Man.
No, well, that's where you could build the damn train that they've been talking about for years, and you get a rail like the one that's awesome on the east coast of the state. If you get one from Orlando to Tampa and you put a baseball stadium right there, dude, you're in business.
They've got the one from Miami to Orlando is incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. You're just eating like a king, drinking. You're in Orlando in no time. You never had to drive. It's beautiful. Oh, man. Final hour forthcoming. Stay with. Hour number 3, bonus hour, power hour, Libations Friday, loosey-goosey edition. Still getting 3 hours. Still getting 3 hours. It's a lot of love and dedication. A lot of love and dedication. There's stuff to do, guys. We could be watching baseball, watching the basketball, playing some golf. I know. Go to work, Cameron. Go to work, you lazy bum. That's fair. That's fair. It's actually fun to do this job. I love doing this job, and I'm glad to do it. And we appreciate you being here for it. One more shout out to everybody who came out to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill last night, yesterday afternoon, I should say, into the evening. It was a good time. I think a good time had by all. Wonderful to welcome baseball back. And I thank Bill, his staff, and the fine folks at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
Baseball's doing well. We know that the numbers are up. They had a very good season, the pitch clock, all that stuff. But a nice little barometer is also turnout for an event like this. It's always a solid turnout. Yesterday was packed. There were a lot of people there specifically because they were geared up to watch baseball. And we saw, I don't know, including your Pirates, maybe like 8 or 9 teams represented amongst the people in the pit. There were a lot of different teams.
Twins, Cardinals, Braves, Orioles, Pirates, Marlins, Mets,
Cubs,
Yankees. I didn't see any Phillies fans. Did I?
I didn't see any. No, and they were on that TV. They moved to the right of the Vegas wall is sick. Bill did that a couple of weeks ago, he said. But that 9th television offset to the right, that was where the Phillies and Nationals played into extra innings yesterday. That was, that's a nice, of the empire of the Vegas wall. They've got a good thing going there. It's only expanding. And that was a beautiful sight yesterday to see baseball on all the televisions.
Loved it. Loved every second of it. It was a fantastic thing. All right. It's list season as well. Bill Connolly made one. Came out today. Got to guess what the list is of, Tom?
Bill Connolly.
We love Bill Connolly. He does a good job.
Returning production year-over-year.
No, this is a better list. This is a proper list, Tom. This is ranking college football's top 90 quarterbacks of the 2000s.
What?
Yeah. No, I love it. I don't
90.
know.
Why did he stop at 90?
I don't know why he didn't do 100, but he did 90, and I think it's fantastic. Now, you're immediately going to say, all right, I've got an opinion on this. We all do. But you're also going to say, what's the criteria? Is this a singular season? Because we all know Cam Newton had the greatest singular season.
Yeah.
Is it a career? Because now it gets interesting. Is it a 2-year run? Because Jameis Winston's 2-year run is amongst the very, very, very best of all time.
Yep.
So you get into the nuance of this thing. And he wrote about that, and this will explain some of the criteria. With each passing season, ranking the college quarterbacks of the 2000s gets a little trickier. The general consensus was that quarterback play was down a little bit in 2024 after the loss of stars such as Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams. But don't tell that to the 5 2024 stars who joined this ever-expanding list of great quarterbacks of the 2000s. By the way, those that joined this list are Dylan Gabriel, Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Shedeur Sanders, and Curtis Rourke. Now, this is what he did. He said, if you look at those players, they combined to throw for 73,849 yards, 607 touchdowns at all levels in their respective careers were great. It's once again time to update the list of best quarterbacks this century. Everything we thought about evolving quarterback play as we were watching Virginia Tech's Michael Vick back in the day, Purdue's Drew Brees, and the wonders of Mike Leach's offense in the late 1990s grew exponentially in the first quarter of the 21st century, but via gaudy passing totals or invigorating runs, dynamic quarterback play has remained the norm to the list. So I think I want to get to where I get an exact explanation of the list, because
it's got to be EPA. Like, it has to be on a per play efficiency basis, right? Because otherwise, you're going to have your Timmy Changs and Graham Harrells that are way too high on the list.
Yeah, he points out that it is a career. He is looking at your career.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that's how Jameis gets in trouble. Jameis isn't even top 10 if you do career, because he only played 2 seasons, right?
Yep.
So he is in the top 20 on this list. In spite of that, like, think about how good you have to be to get on this list when your career passing totals are, in some cases, doubled by other quarterbacks. And that just tells you how efficient and how awesome he was. In fact, Jameis is 16th on this list. I'll cut to the chase. He's number 16. But you might say, well, that seems low. If you think about it in totality, again, about career numbers, he gets hurt by two things, the 2-year factor, and he does have 28 career college interceptions. That's a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah, and he also played for at least his first season half a game. He played a 6-game season and a 12-game schedule because we always had our backups in.
That is true. That is true. Jameis' career, for those that don't remember, it's a good one. 7,964 yards passing, 66% completion percentage. He threw for 65 touchdowns in those 2 years. He also had 7 rushing TDs, by the way, as an aside. He was a little bit more fleet of foot than people realized. And he did have the 28 interceptions. Conley writes about Winston. Jameis was around for only 2 years, but his impact was absolutely absurd. FSU rolled to its first national title in 14 years when he was a redshirt freshman. He won the Heisman by more than 1,500 points and went on to win the first 27 games of his college career. That's a nice write-up. Yeah. That's a nice write-up. And it is a reminder. You're like, oh, yeah, dude just didn't lose.
No.
Like, just didn't lose.
Not one single regular season game.
No.
Nope.
No. Including the most absurd comeback of all time against Louisville.
Yep. Yeah. Well, that was he and Dalvin merging at the same time. They had a couple of moments. They didn't have as many as one would think together where they were both at the height of their powers. Because, for example, Dalvin bailed us out against Florida later that year. Yeah. But that night, the two of them in that second half did special things.
Well, the funny thing, too, the most special they ever did for us was the road Miami game.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's when Dalvin flashes the 305 on that ass as he gets to the end zone. That woman's flicking off Jameis. And
yeah, that Dalvin, I think Dalvin wins the MVP between the two that night because Jameis had a couple of close shaves, one of which was the tip, and it lands in Carlos.
Touchdown, baby.
I mean, Jesus. And that broke Fowler. He's still reeling from that.
He was just like, okay. And it's going to be caught.
Yeah. Between that and Ramsey's rip out of the was that Walford?
Who was a stud tight end.
Yeah, that dude was awesome. And that was a broken play and an explosive play until it was a turnover. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Those two plays changed the game.
Well, and then also Jalen ended the game with the interception.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ramsey was right in your grill at all times. He was an interesting player. I'm glad he was one of us. Because he would have been the most annoying player in the country.
Still was. Yeah.
But listen, he was so effing good. I mean, impacted a game in a lot of very quiet ways. You couldn't even throw his direction. People were just like, well, this guy is a freak. And he was going to tell you about it after every play.
Yeah, he has some Max Williams in him or vice versa.
Okay. But you better be able to play if you're going to do that. You better be elite.
Yep.
Like nobody disrespected his opponents more than Deion Sanders. But he was Deion Sanders. What could you do?
And also, Jalen was the one who was in the room that was telling the truth. Because he was the one after the Oklahoma State win, which we were dominating, and then it became very, very close until we had to run the Bob Knight special to finish the game. Jalen's the one that went on the record after that and said, we've been practicing like crap. Good for you, Jalen.
He was furious. He knew what was coming. He knew that they disrespected the game. He did not like it. He was frustrated from Jump Street before they had one practice that year. He was mad. He didn't like the way players' attitudes looked or sounded. He didn't like what he was seeing once they did start practicing. I give him a lot of credit because that is one thing that everybody has in common that's a great player, and even the really annoying players, is in most of the time they're one and the same, most of the time. It's that they have a passion and a work ethic that is what you want in every player. Now, you could do without all the nonsense, but you really appreciate the hard work. Jalen Ramsey, got kicked out of practice for knocking out Carlos Williams after Jimbo told him to calm down.
And Carlos was in pass pro, so he's blowing up the guy who's in pass pro just for the sake of doing it. He could have taken, because that was the open day, that was fan day. He could have taken a pass to the quarterback if he wanted to, but instead he chose the contact. It was kind of awesome.
I will say that it's really one of the more impressive things I've seen, because Carlos Williams is not small. That is a big, strong man, and a man who I have called the most underrated athlete in FSU football history. He was a freak show. A freak show. You're going to pick a fight. You're not picking it with a guy that's bigger and stronger than you typically. And Jalen just decided, I'm done. And he was mad because on the previous play, he had done the same thing. And Jimbo was mad because he was going all out when he didn't want him to go all out. And he said something to him, and Ramsey was like, all right. And then on the next play, he blows up Carlos Williams, and Jimbo kicks him out of practice.
That's a great moment, though. I'm sure that everybody who was there for that, it was ones versus ones. Everybody who was there for that moment, I'm sure, looks back on it fondly, because we all had that in a classroom. It was either us directly or that kid in the class where the teacher gives you, and like, this is it. You could choose to go to the principal's office.
Yeah.
It's your call.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the kid says, I choose the principal's office. He's like, that's awesome.
Yeah. You're like, good for you.
Yeah.
You stand on your principle.
That was my man, Joe Froyo. The teacher said, I don't want to hear that your printer broke, because this is the day it's due. So print it out 2 days in advance. And his printer broke at home. And he was such a nice kid that you knew he was telling the truth. It was not an excuse. And she said, I don't care. You're getting a 50% reduction in your score. And he flipped out, and she said, sit down. And he crumpled up his mother's note and threw it. And he didn't mean to throw it the direction. It hit the teacher in the head.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's it.
Everybody's hands were in the air. They're like, oh my God. And she goes, to the principal's office. He's like, I know. I got to go. I got to.
Well, yeah, you got to go on that one. You know, Tom, I can share with you, and there are some others out there who have this exact memory. In my day, we go back in the Wayback Machine.
Mm-hmm.
In my day, you got paddled. You legitimately got hit when I was in school. And I got paddled by our principal at Bay Point Middle School. He hit me with a big board as hard as he could on my ass 3 times. Now think about that. That's the world I grew up in.
Bare cheeks, or
no, that would be weird. No,
right.
You didn't have to pull your pants down like that. But I went there. Joe, his first name was Joe. Principal Joe, we all called him. Anyhow, Joe was the principal at the time. I was in 6th grade, maybe. I think it was 6th grade. And I did something. I can't remember. Oh, I know what I did. I tripped a dude who was running in the hall so that his books would go flying everywhere. He was carrying like his books and his trapper keeper, and he was hauling ass. And I was just standing there. And as he ran past me, I stuck my foot out, and he went flying. It was awesome. And the books went everywhere. He landed. He slid in the hall, and it happened to be right in front of the chemistry teacher, who just looked over me at me incredulous and was like, "Why did you do that?" I was like, I don't know. I just thought it was funny. And they're like, well, that's ridiculous. He could have been hurt. I was like, not really. But yeah. And then they were like, go to the office. Go to the office.
Yeah, that's right.
And I was just like, guess I'm going to the office. So I walked to the office, and I sat down, and I was sitting out there in the waiting room. And finally the lady, after like 15 minutes, was like, why are you here, Jeff? I was like, I got sent here. She's like, for what? I go, I don't know. I lied. I said, I don't know. And she goes, you don't know why you got sent to the office? I'm like, no, Mrs. So-and-so sent me here. She's like, oh, well, I'll find out. And then called down there. And then she was like, you know why you got sent here. Go into Principal Joe's. So Principal Joe said, I'll see you, Joe. I walk in there, and he goes, we can't have this. You just out here tripping people in the halls? And I was like, well, I did. I don't normally do it, but I did. I didn't like the kid I tripped, by the way, if we're being honest. And so And there was nothing he could do about it. So then he goes, well, we don't do that. That's bullying, and we're not going to accept that. You cannot do that. And I don't want to suspend you because next week we have tests. So I'm going to have to use corporal punishment. Stand up and put your hands against the wall.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And then he stood up and he grabbed this big blue paddle. It painted blue. It had a little holes in it. 3 times.
Oh, man.
It hurt like hell.
Jeez.
And I didn't even think it was anything abnormal about it. I was just like, well, I guess I deserve to be paddled. And then he sent me back to class.
Nowadays, they use those things for beer flights, at craft breweries.
Yeah.
I was a pretty good kid, but I got away with one thing, and the teacher just let it happen. I don't understand why. Dr. Butler, I feel bad. He was a Spanish teacher. He was my homeroom teacher also one year. He checked out. The kids finally had beaten him after 25 years. Like,
he was done.
I didn't mean to do this at all, but we were throwing stuff. This I meant to do. Like, we were throwing stuff in the classroom when he wasn't looking, and so it would make like little noises around, like bing, like change. You'd throw like. Yeah. So I had a spring for just a normal pen spring for a clicky pen, and I was going to throw it at the television because he was doing a TV thing. So as he was bending down to put the VCR in, I threw the spring, and it was going to go ding, and I was like, yeah, it's going to be fun. Well, as I'm letting go of the spring,
he stands up.
The bald spot of his head is in an intercepting course of the spring, and I can't not let it go.
Yeah.
And so the spring is, everybody sees it too, like, oh, shoot. And it hits him right in the middle of the bald spot. And he stops, firms up his body, and I'm thinking, well, this is it. I'm gone. Yeah. He goes, thank you. And then he hits the play button on the VCR.
Wow. He chose kindness.
Yes. Yeah, I still feel bad about that. I wonder if he's still with us. Dr. Butler, if you're out there, I'm very sorry.
Not so good segue. Here it goes, your list. And this is where I was going to have fun with it. Who do you think is number 1 on the list? Keeping in mind that career is what we're looking
at. Case Keenum?
Baker Mayfield.
Oh, wow. Baker
Mayfield in college, my friends, threw for 14,607 yards. He completed 69% of his passes. He threw 131 touchdowns and ran for another 21. By the way, his career rushing totals were over 1,000 yards on the ground. Bake had himself a college career now. That to give you an example, passing yardage, Cam Newton threw for 2,908 yards, 30 touchdowns, but he ran for 1,586 yards and 24 touchdowns. Cam's regular season, the 2010 campaign, is something to behold. But when you compare that with 14,607 yards passing and also over 1,000 yards rushing, Tom, that is crazy for Baker Mayfield.
That is Keenum in the top 5? Because if you're doing this for career stuff, he should be.
Vince Young is number 3, by the way.
Okay.
Tim Tebow is number 4.
Really? Impact-wise, I'm not arguing. It's just in a stats thing.
I'll tell you why. Tim Tebow threw for 9,285 yards, and he rushed for 3,000 yards and 57 rushing touchdowns and 88 passing touchdowns. He completed 66% of his passes.
Keenum had 3 5,000-yard seasons in college. He threw for 19,000 yards and 155 touchdowns. That's why I figured he would probably be high on the list.
Joe Burrow is rounding out the top 5. I knew that he would. Deshaun Watson's number 6. Kyler Murray, number 7. Lamar Jackson, number 8. Marcus Mariota, number 9. Robert Griffin III at Baylor, number 10. Trevor Lawrence, Colt McCoy, your boy, at Texas.
Who knew? That could have been a game now if he didn't get hurt in the Rose Bowl. That probably was going to be a game instead of Gilbert Grape or whoever the hell they brought in after that.
Mm-hmm. Johnny Manziel, Kellen Moore, Sam Bradford, Jameis Winston, Matt Leinart, Andrew Luck, Jaden Daniels into the top 20 all time.
No Carson Palmer? Interesting.
Bryce Young, number 20. CJ Stroud, Tua. Caleb Williams.
Okay, so he found a way to skew this away from the numbers. He found a way to set this up to actual like good players, like good professional prospects, rather than just, well, Timmy Chang threw for 60 touchdowns in a season.
Case Keenum is 27, by the way.
Okay.
Case Keenum, he has listen, and he points it out. He says about Case Keenum, who threw for 19,217 yards.
Yep.
He says the perfect quarterback for everything Bryles and Sumlin wanted to accomplish at the University of Houston. He topped 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns in 3 different seasons. His 19,217 passing yards are over 2,000 more than anybody else in history, by the way. Dylan Gabriel also almost caught him in 2024, but Keenum remains the yardage king of all time. It is interesting because there's nobody on earth that thinks that Case Keenum is a better quarterback than Carson Palmer, who's just ahead of him. And I would argue he's not a better quarterback than Phillip Rivers. He's not a better quarterback than CJ Stroud. He's not, you know what I mean? So
no, yeah, good job on Connolly, because sometimes if you were just a victim of the numbers themselves, he would be 2 or 3, but he's found a way to get to total impact of quarterbacks and actual skill.
Well, I'll give you one right now. I think Russell Wilson, who he does have in the top 30 all time, let's not forget that career. Russell Wilson, 11,720 passing yards, completed over 60% of his passes. He had 109 touchdowns to 30 interceptions, and he ran for over 1,400 yards and 25 touchdowns. He was incredible.
Yep.
And I still marvel to this day that somehow NC State's delinquent professional failure of a coach, Tom O'Brien, was like, yeah, no, we're good. Go ahead and take it to Wisconsin. What? What?
That was nuts, but Glennon ended up having a killer season.
He did, but he was not Russell Wilson.
No, I'm not saying he was. I'm just saying that it wasn't something where the kid was no good for the collegiate game. Glennon ended up throwing, Glennon
was good, but come on.
He was 31 to 12 touchdown interception, 3,000 yards, and he completed 63% of his passes. Like, I think it was, you're a headache. This guy's not that bad. You're such a headache that I'm going to take the guy who's not that bad.
Well, the number one reason that he gave was he was pissed off that Russell Wilson continued to play baseball.
Yep.
And he didn't want him to play baseball. I'm like, really? You're going to lose your best quarterback because you're worried about him playing baseball? Shut up.
Well, I think also revisiting that situation, I'm sure that Russ was very difficult.
Oh.
In the moment, we weren't aware just how difficult he could be, but I think looking back at it, you're like, oh, so you were at your wit's end, and you had a pretty good back.
Yeah, I think you're right. It does take you down memory lane, though, man, because some of the names on this list real quick. Pat White at West Virginia back in 05 through 08 was sensational. He had 4,480 rushing yards, Tom.
He was supposed to be the future, the evolution of the Miami Dolphins Wildcat, and then he got hurt within a game or two after being drafted by Miami.
Yeah, so Pat White, Ben Roethlisberger at Miami of Ohio. I remember that career. I mean, we're getting old, but that was in 2001 through 2003. He was brilliant. He threw 84 touchdowns in a very short period of time while he was there. Justin Fields, Michael Penix Jr. cracks the list. In the golden years of Rex Grossman at the University of Florida, he by the way, his resume was really good. He lost to Eric Crouch in the Heisman race, but he was in contention. He was right there. Colin Kaepernick at Nevada, Jason White at OU.
Oh, yeah.
That one hurts because he won the national championship against us. Troy Smith, Graham Harrell, Chase Daniel, Ken Dorsey, Stetson Bennett, Mac Jones.
Wow.
Landry Jones.
Oh, yeah, Landry.
Your beloved Alex Smith at Utah.
That's my guy.
Alex Smith threw for 5,203 passing yards, 66% completion rate, 47 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He also, lest we forget, ran for over 1,000 yards and 15 touchdowns on the ground.
Yeah, Urban Meyer's 1.0. That was his 1.0. And also, lest we forget, he outdueled Drew Brees in a playoff game twice and led 2 game-winning drives against the Saints.
We'll point out that was Dan Mullen's genius, but Urban Meyer gets credit for it.
That's true.
Colin Klein. I forgot about Colin Klein at Kansas State. Garbage ass. Colt Brennan, Aaron Murray, Byron Leftwich, Eric Crouch, Brady Quinn, Eli Manning, Cam Ward, Kyle Trask. Wow. Your favorite Jordan Lynch at Northern Illinois.
Oh, my God. Yes, the Orange Bowl participant.
Yes. Participant. Denard Robinson, good Lord. Dan Lefevre, I forgot about him. at Central Michigan.
Yeah.
David Carr, who got screwed because they didn't block for him.
That dude had every tool in the bag.
Joey Harrington, Mason Rudolph, who's a terrible pro quarterback.
Joey Harrington. Oh, my God.
He was a Heisman campaign in Times Square.
Yep. And yeah, that was the Lions got him, right? Didn't the Lions take him?
It didn't work out.
No.
I forgot about Todd Reesing at Kansas. Yeah. He's the kid that led Kansas to the Orange Bowl.
Oh, with Mangino in the greatest photo of all time.
Fat Mangino led Todd Reesing to the Orange Bowl, or vice versa. Aaron Rodgers at Cal, Kenny Pickett at Pitt, Matt Barkley at Southern Cal.
Oh, wow. Yep.
Is
Jimmy Clausen on the list?
I'm looking. JT Barrett's on the list. I forgot about Brad Smith with the worst name ever. Brad Smith from Missouri. Geno Smith from West Virginia.
Who's still playing?
Prescott at Mississippi State. Mm-hmm. Matt Ryan at Boston College. I knew he'd be on the list. Teddy Bridgewater at Louisville. Shedeur Sanders makes the list at 84th. Mackenzie Milton, by the way, gets a nice nod here at 87th. And Hendon Hooker at Tennessee at 89th.
What? No. How can I be offended about somebody finishing 89th on the list? But I'm offended.
Well, let me give you the news. He threw for nearly 9,000 yards. He completed 67% of his passes. He threw 80 touchdowns to just 12 interceptions, and he rushed for over 2,000 yards on the ground and had 25 rushing TDs to boot.
And none of it mattered.
He tore his ACL against South Carolina with in the final 2 games of the season. His numbers would have been even better, and he was actually in the top 3 for a Heisman. You are a Hendon Hooker hater, sir.
Usually you're the Tennessee hater, not me.
I know. 89th. I mean, come on. Chef Cameron Show, 93.3 Real Talk Radio, Warchant TV. In a moment, we will do a little red zone, Tom. I'll let you get your thoughts together on the red zone. We've got, who knows, right? You've got the draft. You've got the season series now against Notre Dame, the 3-game set this weekend. You have what just happened yesterday, Major League Baseball. You've got Noles football. Hodgepodge it. Think real hard for a second while I tell my friends about the fine folks, also my friends at Tried and True Consulting. By the way, they jumped on board. And they're helping out the charity, the Second Harvest of the Big Men. They're going to be on board for the golf tournament. And I want to personally say thank you to Don and Joe and Rusty on the air here. I really have enjoyed this relationship with Tried and True. I like that. Look, bottom line is not only they are advertisers here on 93.3 and the Jeff Cameron Show, but they're doing good stuff in the community. And that's just another example of that. They're helping businesses save a lot of money. By the way, him and his team saved over $60,000 for 12 different businesses in this past month alone. And they have a much more secure way to pay now, utilizing their point of sale. Listen, the ad board, menu board program that I've been talking about a lot, expanding clients' brands, increasing revenue for those clients as well. There's no obligation to buy when you hear me talk about this, but I would think that you would want to reach out to Tried and True Consulting in the not too distant future. You can go to triedandtrueconsulting.com to learn more. Don and his crew are great people and doing good work, so I wanted to thank them very quickly. You can see on the screen, you got the QR code. They give back 10% of the net revenue to the Battles Inn. They're a welcome addition to the show and to the community and to this station, so we appreciate it. Now, think you got yourself ready? You got a little time with the bumper. Go ahead, the little intro. Let's hear it, and then we'll talk about another very valued partner on the show.
Welcome to the majesty.
Every freaking rep.
The elegance.
To win the game. Oh, he hits the upright. It's no good.
You have entered.
Someone burned down the funeral home. You burnt the funeral home.
Lives will be changed.
Sideline. Touchdown. Unbelievable.
Mothers will cry.
When you see your players give all that they have and you lose that way, it's tough.
Legacies are etched into eternity.
I know who I am.
North South Dakota was his brother from West Virginia.
This is the Red Zone.
That's good to know.
Scoring in the retirement red zone by building a winning game plan. You need to check out NoleRetirement.com. That is NoleRetirement.com. Artisan Financial Strategies. Every week at this time, around this time, we do the red zone. It can help you with financial planning, investment management, and estate and legacy planning as well. Investment, as I say, risk management, all those things, exit strategy, business. You can all the things that you want to make sure you're prepared for. They do at Artisan Financial Strategies. And Adam is a fantastic friend and I think as good in this business as there is. NoleRetirement.com. Diehard Nole, big time Nole, whole family of Noles right there from my man Adam Tolliver. Artisan Financial Strategies, NoleRetirement.com. Fire away on first down in the red zone, Tommy.
Yeah, you gave me a lot of time, didn't you? Over under 17 and a half outs recorded for Jamie Arnold on the hill today. 17 and a half. That's 5 2/3.
Yeah, it is. Over.
All right. You think we're going to get 6?
I think we get a solid 6 out of Jamie today. I think listen, this is a big start. Come on, Jamie. What's the temp up there in South Bend in that dump of a town? I worry a little bit about inclement weather when you play Notre Dame there, obviously, always.
Yeah, the temperature's not too bad. It is going to rain this weekend a little bit.
Because it's what it does.
It's a dump. 60, let's see, at first pitch, it looks like it's going to be in the low 70s. It's actually
nice.
Yeah.
Okay, Jamie. Okay. Let's go. Here we go. Let's lock it in, brother. Lock it in. Yeah.
72 degrees at first pitch tonight.
Oh, well, it's a perfect day, actually, in South Bend. Sorry about that. Dump of a town. Even the light shines on you occasionally. There you go. 6 innings. Over.
Second down. We'll follow up on this on Monday. Your personal approval rating of the press conferences from Mike Norvell and the coordinators tomorrow, because there is a scrimmage tomorrow, and they're going to tell us exactly how the scrimmage went. I'm sure of it. Your personal approval rating for the press conferences on a scale of 1 to 10 will be
5.
Oh, you're going to be even Steven, down the middle.
I think Tony White will give a great press conference, a great briefing. It will lift all boats.
Okay, to a 5.
To a 5.
All boats to a 5. Okay.
Yeah.
Third down. Because we're in an interesting time of year where there's a whole hell of a lot going on, we understand the job, and we do love our Noles. But your focus this weekend will be on what sport?
Major League Baseball.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie. I'm going to have baseball on all weekend. And now I will watch this. I mean, look, we got games today. We've got NCAA tournament games. I'm going to watch. So that doesn't mean, but I just think the consistency with which I'll be watching Major League Baseball is such that'll get the nod. But, it's a glorious time of year. It is a glorious time of year. I'll just put it that way.
Okay. Self-serving for the final one here. For you, not for me. Paul Skeen's ERA this year will be what when the season's over?
2.37.
2.37. Okay.
It'll be a 2.37, and he'll go 10 and 15.
Probably so.
Well, we're off to a roaring start. He leaves the game up 4-1 on the road. It's a win. You've got the game won. It's an anemic offense you're facing. Think how many more offenses he's going to face a hell of a lot better than the Marlins and leave the game up by 3 runs only to watch as it's bastardized by a bullpen of bums.
I'll give you a bonus one here. I'm going to set an over-under. It's a prop on the press conferences. Over under 6.5 minutes for Gus Malzahn's post-scrimmage availability.
Well, I'm going to say it'll be over because he's going to get asked a series of questions and he's going to have to give something other than a one-word answer. And they'll keep trying because we've got so precious little to go with right now. All of the people that have to write stories for websites. And see, that's the thing. I want to point this out. I feel for my cohorts. I don't have to write a damn thing for the website. I talk about it on the Jeff Cameron show. That's my job. That's what I do. I sometimes do short videos with people and things of that ilk, but I don't have to write game stories. I don't have to write stories about a practice I didn't see. And so I don't have to worry about all that. We can just go on what they say. But when you're writing a story and you have an angle, and maybe the story is an overview of, say, Tommy Castellanos, or it's an overview of a defensive player, whomever that might be, you have to ask questions to that end that will give you some insight into how the player is doing and where they see him and where he's at in the process. So you just got to keep peppering these guys with questions, hoping to get some quotable nugget from the coordinator or the segment group leader. You got to have something. And so, they're going to keep asking that guy questions because we're not at these practices. So you have to glean information by what they say.
All right. I think it's going to be close. I think that's a good number because he's going to get asked who stood out today. He's going to say, everybody. It's clean slate. A lot of old school guys out there. I'm very pleased with where we are. Right on schedule. Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody in particular? Did he look? Well, yeah, they all did. Okay. All right. Now we're into minute 3. It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be close. Yeah. Do we have a bonus? That was a bonus. We didn't
that was fifth down. We ran an extra down. It was like ACC officials were forgetting the down distance and situations.
All right, well then we did it, man. I feel pretty good about that.
I would have asked you a lot more football questions, but I mean, there's not. You
can't, Tom. You simply can't. There's nothing. You can't do it. NoleRetirement.com. Artisan Financial Strategies. Thank you as always. Come back, wrap it up momentarily. Jeff Cameron Show 93.3, Real Talk Radio and Warchant TV. On into the weekend we go. Florida State, Notre Dame. Let's go Noles. Let's get that sweep. Let's see the dominant arms of a rotation that feels a little bit frustrated after last weekend's run against Miami. Let's go. Let's go.
Yesterday, I ran I ripped the press conference for Link, his Thursday weekly press conference, and he's funny. You know this. Sometimes not intentionally. Like he's just like he's his own guy.
Yeah.
He thinks about McFlurries randomly driving around Tallahassee. Like he thinks about the Oreo McFlurry, and I just love that about him because remember last year he bought him for the team.
Yeah.
And I think it was Kurt asked him, hey, are you going to be doing that again? Or was that a last year thing to help the roster? He goes, it's a little early for me to think about that. Usually I think about McFlurries between lunch and dinner. And he's like, I do love that Oreo one. Hey, it could be today. Like I could do it today. I don't know. And he was very thoughtful about the McFlurries. So I think that Link Jarrett randomly might be walking down to the training room, making sure that his guy is using the resistance bands to stretch out his arm on a Tuesday workout day and thinking, I really could go for an Oreo McFlurry right now.
I often think there's a couple things here that makes me think of which I love. First of all, if the contents of our brain were ever to produce themselves as a thought bubble that could be read by others as you walked around the earth, none of us would exist in a good way. We would all be canceled. Everything would be, we've all thought things that, thankfully you have the discernment, you have the ability to go, well, that's crazy. What was I thinking? But it's like, I've told you before, driving down the highway at 85 miles per hour, I've thought, what if I just jerked the wheel? Like we've all done that. And you're like, why would you think that? What is wrong with you? But your brain's weird that way. And then you process it and you don't jerk the wheel because you have control over your actions. So you don't do the crazy thing that your brain is throwing at you, and my brain throws all kinds of things at me, good, bad, and otherwise, but if you could see the thoughts like, well, he's sitting there thinking about that girl's ass and it's wildly inappropriate. But that's like something that you'd be in trouble for, right? Because that's the instinctual part of your brain, whatever it might be. So I love that as creatures, as human beings, there's everything under the sun that's there in that collective conscience. And all of a sudden, it would be hilarious to be walking past somebody on a street and he's thinking about an effing McFlurry.
I'm telling you.
It would be hilarious.
And I'm telling you, like in a moment of honesty, he'd say, I know this is bad, but I'm thinking about a McFlurry right now. I really think he's that much of a straight arrow, which I just appreciate the hell out of that because that was a throwaway question. and Kurt even said, he's like, this is off topic, but out of curiosity, it was a thoughtful answer. And I guarantee you when he logged off the Zoom, he's like, I think I need to stop by McDonald's today. Hopefully the McFlurry machine is working.
What is your random fast food or not good for you food? It doesn't have to be fast food per se. What is your is it pizza for you? Is that what it is?
Yeah, but specific brand. If I get a Little Caesars hot and ready, that's, you know what I mean? You're like, there's no excuse for this.
There's no excuse for
There's no excuse for this behavior.
There's a lot better pizza than that too, buddy.
Right. But
you have a soft spot in your heart for it.
I do, because it reminds me of having zero money.
Yeah.
And especially, at the early days of 1270. That's all I could afford. It was either that or Howie's. And depending upon what side of town you're on, Howie's is far superior. Howie's actually isn't that bad for however cheap it was back in the day.
Sure.
But it was a treat to be able to get that instead of having frozen pizza or ramen or the big pasta that you bought at Sam's Club, like the giant thing of elbow macaroni that could barely fit in your car.
Right.
I think that's what it is. There's a comfort there of the treat to spend $5 on a meal.
I'm thinking, for me, it's always been wings. I love wings. And once a week, randomly, even when I'm being very good, I've dropped 6 pounds. I'm trying to drop 15. I'm working hard at it. Part of it is doing the right thing with my diet, not eating after a certain time and not giving in to these cravings for the most part. But there's no chance I'll go an entire month without eating wings. There's zero chance of that. Most of the time, if I only eat wings once every 10 days, I feel very proud of myself, because that is my McFlurry. As I'm driving down the road, rando, we should get some wings. That's what happens to me, especially in the evening if I'm driving around and we don't have dinner set.
I will tell you my one thing that I do not apologize for with the Little Caesars. Even when you drive in the parking lot, you're like, come on, man. It happens 2 or 3 times a year, and never more than 2 or 3 times a year. A Whataburger. Holy crap. Just because I don't eat burgers ever, but specifically, that thing is so heavy when they bring it out.
It's very good.
It's phenomenal.
Burgers are delicious. Who are we kidding?
But that specific one, they nail it with the onions and the mustard being the base thing that they do. You add bacon to it. Holy smokes.
See, that's happening this weekend for you. I can tell.
It might happen. I might need to soak up some grease today.
Hit the probables. Let's do this thing, buddy.
It's time for, how you say, with the pitching, probables?
Once again, for no reason at all, Major League Baseball decided no game can start before freaking 4 o'clock. We have the whole day, Major League Baseball. You're allowed to start a game at 1 or even 2. But why? Why with this nonsense? Anyhow, today beginning at 4 o'clock, the Rockies face the Rays. It's the Rays' home opener, although it's at Steinbrenner Field, which is also sickening because Steinbrenner was a piece of garbage. Anyhow, Kyle Freeland goes for the Rockies. Ryan Peapot goes for the Rays. We got the Orioles and the Jays. Charlie Morton. I didn't know Morton was with the Orioles. Good for you, Morton. Kevin Gausman goes for the Blue Jays. The Pirates will face the Marlins again, hopefully not blow a 3-run lead in the 8th inning. Mitch not just screwing Keller, Tom.
Oh, not just screwing Mitch Keller. Very nice.
Connor Gillespie goes for the Marlins. Red Sox, Rangers, Tanner Houck and Jack Leiter. We've got the Mets and the Astros game 2, 8:10 p.m. Tyler McGill and Hunter Brown. By the way, congratulations go out to Cam Smith, who got a hit in his first ever Major League at bat. Woo, that's cool.
He also got his first error out of the way in right field.
He did. Probably should have taken one more step before the slide. A's, Mariners, Jeffrey Springs, Luis Castillo. We got the Braves and the Padres game 2 there tonight, 9:40. You feeling it? You've got your cold beverage, Braves fans. You got a late night action on a Friday. Ronaldo Lopez versus Dylan Cease. Cubs, D-backs, Jamison Tyon and Merrill Kelly, followed by Tigers, Dodgers, and that is Jack Only Flaherty and Yoshinobu Yamamoto going for the Dodgers. And that is a look at those that shall reside on the bump. Boom. All right. Feel pretty good about it. I like it. All right. Baseball. It's a good thing. Games galore. Noles are what? 6 o'clock first pitch? 7 o'clock?
4:30. It's happening like soon. Very soon. 4:30.
Oh, and the next. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. Let's do it. Going to be great. Can't wait to do it. Tommy, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the great weather. Same goes to all of you. Be well. We will be back with you on Monday. Until then, peace.